a man feels the agonizing bite of blades tearing into him. Confused, he wonders if those truly are swords piercing him. As he glances down, he realizes the object he's clutching might actually be his own head. His full form materializes before us, revealing a knight's armor, riddled with countless impaling blades. Motionless yet eerily upright, he stares intently at the hollow, empty armor, and wonders how he became nothing more than an empty, deserted shell. A distant memory stirs, showing soldiers gripped by panic, as a monstrous being, blazing with purple flames, towers over them. Their leader, Bao, refuses to retreat, defying the terror gripping those around him. He firmly stands his ground, determined to unleash the last of his power against the demon before him. His disciples cry out, warning he'll surely die if he persists, but he dismisses their desperate pleas with burning, unwavering resolve. Bao charges forward, vowing to battle until death for his cause. Sudden shock flashes in his eyes. As the demon's overwhelming power surges violently toward him, the massive demon roars, its maw gaping wide, threatening to devour him whole. A strange, unknown force suddenly envelops him mid-air. His body, now encased by an unfamiliar, potent power, light violently bursts forth, and his consciousness rapidly fades. When he finally opens his eyes again, he realizes he's been miraculously reincarnated, though only his soul remains, mysteriously bound to the armor. He vividly recalls the monstrous demon that brought about his end, and vows to return, to settle the score once and for all. Fiery flames fiercely swirl around his armored body, as he prepares to activate the transportation skill for the very first time. The ground trembles beneath him, as the powerful magic activates, but he hesitates, a ripple of doubt striking as nothing happens. A sudden shock hits him as he senses a profound emptiness within, realizing his chi is completely, utterly gone. He realizes only his soul was successfully transferred, leaving all his precious chi behind, in his old, discarded body, rendering all his potent secret techniques utterly useless. Before he can even begin to process more, movement stirs ominously in the distance, as a group of armored soldiers relentlessly approaches through the thick mist. Surrounded by this unfamiliar, alien terrain, he wonders precisely where he's truly ended up. As these mysterious soldiers advance menacingly toward him, the flame-covered warriors charge wildly forward, screaming in torment as their cursed bodies twist in excruciating agony. Another valiant group of knights bravely rushes in, shouting for their comrades to hold the line and fiercely strike back. Their resolute leader reminds them of their sacred code, urging them never to retreat, no matter the insurmountable odds. A female knight with long pink braids steps forward, exuding commanding authority as she repeats the same rule with conviction. With fierce determination, the princess declares that only by retrieving Excalibur can they ever hope to destroy the cursed armor. She raises her mighty sword, leading the charge herself, her loyal soldiers following her, rallying cry into battle. As he observes the unfolding chaos, he realizes he's landed smack dab in the middle of a raging battlefield, where the conflict never seems to cease. He wisely decides not to interfere, focusing instead on finding a quicker way to restore his lost key. He pauses mid-step, sensing a strange energy pulse from nearby. His attention immediately locks onto the princess's blade, realizing it carries unmistakable traces of chi. Thoughts quickly race through his mind, as he deduces that magical weapons in this world might just be capable of gathering chi themselves. The princess exhales in relief, having survived the brutal battle. As she stands triumphant above the fallen bodies, she begins speaking to her weary soldiers, completely unaware of the figure watching her every move. Without a single warning, he suddenly appears behind her, demanding her sword. Completely startled, she panics as he reaches out for it, while he frantically tries to explain himself. Meanwhile, chaos absolutely erupts around them. A knight rushes in, furious and fiercely protective, slamming his blade down toward the stranger. The knight immediately shields the princess, asking if she's unharmed as she struggles to steady herself. She glances at the armored intruder with utter confusion, wondering if he could possibly be one of their allies. He warns them to stay calm, just as his helmet tumbles off, revealing that there's absolutely nothing inside. The princess's eyes widen in absolute shock at the sight of the hollow armor. He quickly fumbles to put his helmet back on. As the knights close in, surrounding him with drawn blades, panic spreads through the ranks as they shout that the armor is empty, and immediately assume it's a cursed being. One brave knight tries to steady the others, telling them not to fear as he charges forward, mocking the idea that a mere cursed armor could possibly threaten them. Bao stuns the soldier by deftly dodging the strike. Bao notes how sluggish it feels without any chi, and wishes it could move freely once again. The princess herself then leaps into the fray, sword raised high, calling out the others for being so careless. She strikes fiercely, declaring that cursed armor must be destroyed. Without a moment's hesitation, the blow releases a powerful surge of energy, and Bao instantly recognizes the unmistakable sensation of chi flowing from her blade. The princess commands her men to stay vigilant, as one soldier quickly steadies himself, realizing his guard had slipped. The princess quickly glances over her shoulder. A sudden shout warns, enemy reinforcements have arrived. As they swarm the battlefield, the princess rallies her troops, shouting for everyone to fight back. With renewed strength, she fiercely slashes forward. Her movements are swift and precise. Amidst the chaos, she fearlessly dashes ahead, cutting down cursed soldiers with calculated strikes. Watching from behind, the soldiers are in awe of their precision, realizing they're witnessing battle-hardened warriors in action. They closely watch the princess and her guard, impressed by their seamless teamwork in battle. A cursed soldier lunges at her, landing a devastating strike. Carl shouts her name as cursed enemies swarm in. Exhausted, she finds her path cut off. She realizes her stamina is quickly dwindling, while the enemies just keep multiplying. Before she can react, the enemy knocks her weapon away. Bao mutters about how recovering his detached head was a nuisance. He adjusts his helmet once more. Now fully focused, he spots the glowing sword embedded in the ground. As divine energy flickers powerfully around him, he reaches for the blade with unwavering determination, deciding to harness the weapon's power himself. Flames of golden chi erupt, enveloping his armor. As he confirms the sword's power is akin to his own world's, he feels energy pulsing through him once again, his chi slowly but surely regenerating. Though still faint, the princess spots him lunging forward. He charges forward, now with renewed strength, slicing through the enemy in front of the princess, as if just practice. One swing cuts down multiple cursed armors at once, scattering them like mere debris. The soldiers watch on in utter disbelief, as he turns against the cursed army they thought he was part of. He moves through the battlefield completely unhindered, cutting down hordes as if they were nothing but mere grass. The men can only stare in absolute awe, realizing his power surpasses even Princess Gwen's, and even Carl Bao's. He remarks that only those without chi would mistake brute strength for true combat skill. As another cursed armor lunges at him, he focuses on the energy flowing within its body. With a firm grip, he channels that awareness through his blade. He unleashes a perfectly precise counter, striking directly at the enemy's weak points. As the dust settles, the battlefield falls silent. The ground is littered with broken armor, as he calmly declares the fight over. Gwen approaches, her steps cautious, still unsure of his true intentions. He raises a hand reassuringly, claiming he means no harm. He then states his only request, that the magical weapon be given to him as repayment for saving them. As he grips the glowing sword, he senses its immense energy, realizing it could speed up his return to his own world. Bao's weapon shatters upon impact, fragments scattering in a burst of light. He examines the broken blade, wondering if his chi wasn't strong enough, or if the weapon itself was simply too weak. Gwen questions his intentions as he asks for another sword. She observes that although he looks like a cursed armor, he seems capable of reason, and shows no hostility. When asked his name, Bao answers simply. She expresses her surprise, asking him if he's an ally or a threat. Bao clarifies. He has no intention of harming anyone, and only seeks another weapon, like the one he lost. Seeing his neutrality, Gwen proposes forming an alliance to achieve their mutual goals. She explains their mission, to reach the distant castle, said to contain the legendary Excalibur, capable of ending the cursed armor calamity. She promises to grant Bao anything if he helps them reach it. Her knight objects to the idea of trusting a cursed armor, but Gwen insists, acknowledging Bao's power, and the fact that he had saved their lives when no one else could. She quiets her men as they approach the castle, letting them know of her plan to deal with him later. Once they secure Excalibur, Gwen turns to Bao and asks him what he thinks. Hearing the name, he wonders if Excalibur might be another magical relic, worth investigating. With confidence, he tells them to move out, leading the way into the battlefield. He watches the fallen, cursed armors, and compares them to the weak monsters of his own world. He muses that if his chi were fully restored, the journey would have been effortless. Together, they advance toward the towering castle, and the princess looks up, realizing they've finally arrived. Inside the dark entrance, she orders her men to stay alert. As Bao inquires about the origins of Excalibur, Gwen explains the sword once appeared before countless believers, during a sacred event, and only those deemed worthy can wield its divine power. They enter the ancient hall, where the sword is now kept. She calls it their final hope against the cursed armor plaguing their land. Before them lies a sea of fallen warriors surrounding the blade. Bao repeats the sword's name, feeling its immense energy. He senses its extraordinary level, and realizes it could grant him enough chi to return home. Gwen steps forward in awe, realizing she stands before the legendary weapon. She recalls the legend, Only the true king can pull the sword free and end the curse. The field of fallen armor reminds her of those who failed to claim it through the ages. Quietly, she admits her doubt, fearing she may be unworthy to wield such a sacred relic. Her anxiety grows as she imagines sharing the same fate as the fallen warriors before her. Yet, despite her fear, she resolves that only Excalibur's power can save their world. Believing destiny has led her to this moment, she grips the sword's hilt. Holy light bursts forth as the sacred weapon responds to her touch. The ground trembles and energy surges violently. As she grips the sword, Gwen screams in pain, realizing the weapon is draining her life force. Despair fills her eyes. As she wonders if she has failed Excalibur's test, one of her knights rushes forward, shouting for her to release it. Before it's too late, a hand grabs her from behind. Bao dashes in and pushes her away, forcefully knocking her away from the sword. Carl catches her as she collapses. They look on in shock as Bao grips Excalibur himself. Without hesitation, they watch in disbelief as he stabilizes the raging energy with ease. Bao notes that the people of this world know nothing of chi, making them unable to control the sword. He realizes those who touched Excalibur before were devoured, their chi drained until only bones remained. He knows the sword can only be controlled through mastery of chi. Gwen watches in awe, while Bao snaps her out of it, warning her to stay alert. He asks her to focus on the swarm of cursed armors. Charging towards them, Gwen quickly commands her soldiers to prepare for battle. She rallies her knights to battle, instructing them to prioritize the cursed armors. As the clash begins, Bao warns her to be careful. A massive cursed armor, dwarfing the others, appears. It smashes through the walls with monstrous strength. The soldiers identify it as the grizzly bear's cursed armor. Its immense power shakes the very ground. Bao senses their struggle and resolves to speed things up. He remarks that Excalibur's hunger for chi is immense, devouring all energy within its reach. He compares Gwen's weapon to Excalibur, noting hers is merely a simple, ordinary blade, a magical blade that anyone can wield, even those unfamiliar with Kai. His grip tightens as he boasts that fate has chosen the strongest chi practitioner to wield it. A sudden burst of light blinds Gwen from behind, causing her to look on in shock. She turns to see a cursed armor lunging right at her, with a massive claw raised, poised to strike. A blinding flash erupts between them. Dust and debris settle as Gwen coughs. Her knights stare in disbelief, realizing who unleashed that overwhelming energy. Gwen looks ahead, her eyes widening in awe. Before her stands Bao, Excalibur. Now shining in his hand, the sword's chaotic chi finally stabilizes, resonating in perfect harmony with its new master. He feels the world's chi flowing into him, drawn through Excalibur like a river of pure energy. He senses a profound shift, and questions if his power is growing beyond what he imagined. Realization strikes him, as he sees the sword absorbing not only the world's chi, but also the energy of the monstrous armor before him. Excalibur glows even brighter, as it channels the very essence of his foe into his core. He braces himself as the giant armor charges forward. Raising the sword high, he explains that chi is the life force that sustains all living beings. For one who has mastered it, chi can be harnessed outwardly to enhance the body's strength. His aura expands as golden light envelops him, transforming that energy into sheer physical power. Bao vanishes in a blur of motion, striking the armored monster with inhuman speed. The impact shatters the ground, as his blow lands with devastating force. He explains that such feats are merely the fundamentals of chi mastery, and that by altering and reconstructing the flow of chi, he's about to transcend all ordinary limits. Energy gathers fiercely around him, as he prepares to unleash a secret art, known only to his lineage. He then channels his power into a burning strike. Flames explode across the battlefield as he lands. The soldiers watching from afar tremble in fear, overwhelmed by his sheer, terrifying power. Gwen stares in disbelief, realizing he's truly wielded Excalibur. Standing over the fallen creature, Bao notes he's absorbed enough chi to finally return home. He invokes a powerful transportation art, as he tries to activate the technique. After a few moments, he stands awkwardly in the middle of the room. He glances around in confusion when absolutely nothing happens. He realizes the technique has completely failed. He wonders if his chi was simply insufficient. He notices a nearby gate and pauses to ponder, guessing the spell completely drained too much chi. He decides to replenish it through winning battles. Win and her knights panic as more enemies emerge from every side. She watches Bao with awe, realizing he wields Excalibur with complete mastery. As she steps forward, she wonders if this strange warrior might be the destined king. The knights brace themselves as enemies close in from all sides. Panic sets in, when they realize they are completely outnumbered. An escape seems utterly impossible. Bao steadies himself, knowing hesitation would betray his title. He charges forward, cutting through the horde with overwhelming force. His movements grow sharper. As he confirms he can draw power from the enemies he slays, he pauses, when a strange glow begins to rise from the corpses around him. A mysterious message appears in his mind, declaring the acquisition of a new knight. Startled, he questions whether the sound he heard was real, or a figment of his mind. Meanwhile, the others fight fiercely to hold the line. As Bao continues his rampage, Win rallies her troops, urging them to endure no matter the odds. A monstrous figure charges forward, its roar shaking the battlefield. As it slams down with crushing force, the soldiers realize even more grizzly bears have appeared, their power far beyond what the knights can possibly handle. Bao stands over a field of corpses as the strange message appears, once again demanding approval of a new knight. Excalibur ignites in brilliant flame, and Bao senses a faint voice emanating from the blade. He questions whether the sword possesses true sentience, and wonders what it truly means to approve a knight. Though confused, he resolves that any useful skill can be mastered. No matter how mysterious, he confidently speaks the command. And then, the fallen enemies suddenly begin to rise. Panic instantly spreads, as the knights realize the dead are reanimating all around them. The risen armors, now animated, start attacking the enemies. Gwen's eyes widen in sheer disbelief. She watches in shock as the cursed armors start turning on one another. She then spots Bao, holding the ignited sword, and wonders about his sudden appearance. Gwen starts to wonder if the fallen armors are now truly moving under Bao's control. As if bound to his will, he calmly confirms what she suspects, acknowledging the strange, unsettling truth. Excalibur's victims not only lose their chi, but also their free will, becoming mere extensions of his power. The others begin to truly realize the terrifying power of Excalibur. Gwen recognizes how swiftly Bao has mastered the holy sword. His control is flawless and terrifyingly absolute. Awe mixes with fear as she stares at him, her mind flashing back to an old, distant memory. The memory of her younger self suddenly surfaces, holding an ancient scroll about the fabled King of Knights. An elder's wise voice echoes, recounting the legendary tale passed down through generations. The tale vividly unfolds, where the king is said to shine brightest amidst chaos and war. He describes a hero whose might and glory pierce through the very heavens, wielding Excalibur to command both awe and fear. Young Gwen listens in wide-eyed wonder, believing that the strongest must surely be the true king. Her mentor gently smiles, and explains that true kingship requires far more than strength alone. The memory fades as the present rushes back, and her allies call out to her amid the fierce, renewed battle. Shocked by the unfolding spectacle, she realizes that Bao and his army of reanimated warriors have completely turned the tide of battle. Encouraged by this incredible reversal, the knights rally and charge forward, with renewed, burning hope. Gwen observes how her knights' fear and fatigue are quickly replaced by fierce determination. Bao acknowledges their unyielding fighting spirit and realizes they've gathered enough chi to complete their grand goal. With power surging mightily through him, he raises Excalibur once more, unleashing a blinding, brilliant light. Bao channels his newly gathered chi, as a torrent of flame and raw power engulfs him, ascending revitalized. Bao feels his power surge back, his confidence reignited with a fiery roar. He calls upon lightning itself, bending the heavens to his will, unleashing a devastating strike that obliterates the cursed army below him. The strike tears through the battlefield like a furious god, scattering the remaining foes in a blinding, earth-shattering flash. Amid the chaos, Gwen steadies herself, her gaze fixed on the spectacle, realizing she's witnessing the true, terrifying power of the King of Knights. Bao stands triumphantly at the center of the devastation, his brilliance alone lighting up the desolate, war-torn field. Gwen realizes how he used Excalibur to pierce the very sky and split it asunder. The awestruck soldiers stare in disbelief, then erupt into thunderous cheers, realizing the battle, against all odds, is finally won. A wave of profound relief floods through them as victory is confirmed, the once cursed army now utterly reduced to nothing but dust. Gwen recalls her mentor's words about true kingship, meaning far more than mere power alone. She watches Bao, a profound realization dawning upon her. He was also able to inspire everyone's courage and ignite their hope. She whispers his name, her eyes shining with absolute awe. She finally understands that he truly possesses all the qualities of a king. As the brilliant light fades, Bao senses something profoundly strange. He notices that despite absorbing an immense amount of chi, the secret technique still refuses to activate, even as a new message appears. This message marks him with the esteemed title of the Sword Bearer. His body begins to dissolve, transforming into streams of brilliant golden light. As he's pulled away by some unknown, otherworldly force, his vision blurs, then clears. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself in an utterly new and unfamiliar place. He realizes in shock that he's returned to his original, true form, a space identified as the very inner realm of Excalibur itself. He steps cautiously forward, entering Camelot Hall. A mysterious voice calls out to him, warmly welcoming his arrival. From the deep shadows, a regal woman gracefully appears, introducing herself as the legendary spirit of Excalibur. With a soft, knowing smile, she tells him to simply call her Vivi. She explains that she and Excalibur are inextricably one and the same, and because he can now wield the legendary sword, he is now her master. Bao reflects on her astonishing words, recognizing the ancient concept of a weapon's consciousness, and recalling similar magical entities he's encountered before. Observing his ethereal surroundings, he deduces that this place is a realm built from pure chi and mental power, manifesting itself through concentrated memory and sheer will. Vivi explains she brought him here so they could speak freely, without interruption. As this unique realm allows for truly direct communication, she then lifts a small, glowing candle, glowing faintly in her hands. She asks him to look very closely. The tiny flame within it flickers weakly, as she tells him it represents his current, depleted chi, leaving him stunned by how little remained. Vivi clarifies that for Bao to activate the transportation technique, his chi must be potent enough to illuminate all of Camelot Hall. Hearing this, Bao grasps the technique's immense energy cost and admits he's never tried it. Worried by his troubled expression, Vivi leans in, insisting it's her servant's duty to soothe his anxieties. Bao brushes off her attempts, deciding instead to focus on gathering power to strengthen himself. He resolves to wield Excalibur, absorbing energy from defeated, cursed armors until his reserves are full. Vivi encourages him, confidently declaring the wielder of Excalibur unstoppable. She mentions a dangerous foe, the four-eyed demon, responsible for the cursed armor calamity. Bao's expression hardens as memories of his shattered world and fallen comrades flash through his mind. He recalls the demon that decimated his clan, and suspects a link to this world's threat. Fueled by vengeance, he vows to uncover the truth and annihilate the demon responsible. Vivi enthusiastically praises his resolve, though her exaggerated admiration only earns his irritation. Bao instructs Vivi to send him back, and she complies, promising to serve him until the day he becomes king. Bao hesitates, admitting he never aimed for a throne, and finds leadership itself exhausting enough. Vivi tells him to treat this journey as a fleeting dream, if he must. He returns as her voice fades, declaring that once a king, always a king. Confused, he surveys the battlefield and asks, "What happened?" Gwen steps forward, her tone solemn. As she addresses him by his title, she kneels before him, proclaiming him the chosen wielder of Excalibur, and the one who commands the cursed armors. She pleads for him to end the cursed armor calamity, and save their land. She declares him the destined king of knights. Bao questions the sudden reverence shown toward him, confused by being called both cursed and king. Gwen lowers her head in apology, saying Excalibur's power proves his rightful kingship. Realizing he needs clarity, Bao asks her to explain the world situation and the origin of the cursed armors. Gwen wonders why he's unaware, and Bao vaguely explains he was transported from another world. Gwen begins her account, describing how, 10 years ago, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky. Their appearance screamed cursed armor, and people quickly started calling them just that. These cursed armors laid waste to vast regions, reducing nations to ashes, all under the command of a massive, four-eyed demon. Bao recognizes the name instantly, connecting it directly to his personal vendetta. Gwen explains their strategy to retrieve Excalibur, regroup at Kingstone, then strike at the heart of the calamity. She reveals that Kingstone itself was one of the fallen kingdoms, and finding survivors there might uncover more about the elusive four-eyed demon. Bao asks if the cursed armor still remains in Kingstone, and Gwen confirms it. Bao agrees, realizing that by defeating more cursed armor, he could gather enough chi to return home. Gwen reacts with immense gratitude, thanking him enthusiastically for his support. Determined, she believes that with Excalibur and its bearer's strength, their victory is now within reach. She rallies her knights to move out, leading the march toward Kingstone with renewed hope. Along the way, the knights notice the fallen, cursed armor now, following them in silence, and they marvel at Bao's incredible power. Meanwhile, Bao meditates atop the cursed armors, gathering chi in deep concentration. His focus remains steady as he absorbs the energy of heaven and earth, through controlled breathing. Though slow, he knows that maintaining it consistently will yield great benefits over time. Soon, Vivi senses his return, greeting him warmly as he reappears beside her. Bao finds himself back in Camelot Hall, and realizes he can now project his consciousness on his own. Suddenly, the defeated cursed armor appears beside them, and Vivi assures Bao they only gather here after he accepts their seal. She explains that their absorbed ki now fuels his strength, making his inner flame burn even brighter. Bao studies his glowing hand, and, noting that the ki gathered from weak enemies only restores him to a beginner level. He concludes that he must fill the hall with stronger energy. Before mastering his transportation technique, he then sighs as Vivi clings to him again, reminding her to stand on her own. She informs him that someone is waiting outside, and that he can call on her whenever needed. Returning to the real world, he is greeted by Princess Gwen, offering him a steaming bowl of soup. He stares blankly, a grim realization dawning. He has no mouth to eat with. Gwen, ever curious, wonders if he ever feels the pangs of hunger. Bao admits that, yes, he absolutely does. But instead of food, he sustains himself by converting raw ki energy. He even suggests she try it herself someday. Gwen attempts to mimic Bao's control over energy, which only prompts Bao to confirm that mortals are simply incapable of truly grasping ki. Soon enough, they arrive at the ancient site of Kingstone, and almost immediately, a cursed knight lunges at them. Bao counters with a lightning-fast strike. The system promptly notifies him. A new knight now falls under his command, and he immediately grants approval to its seal. Gwen reports that the immediate area has been cleared, expressing her gratitude for his incredible strength. Bao's attention, however, is drawn to a towering row of massive statues. Gwen explains these depict the legendary 11 greatest kings, who once ruled this very land. Legend says they gathered here to determine who among them was truly the mightiest. Though, after the calamity, none were ever heard from again. Gwen wonders aloud if finding even one of them alive could truly shift the tides of war. Their hopeful conversation is abruptly cut short by distant screams. They turn to find a group of terrified survivors. Another chilling scream echoes, startling Bao. As he spins toward the source of the noise, his reflexes kick in just as an armored warrior lunges directly at him. His own newly approved knight emerges, screaming for blood. The knight drives its weapon viciously toward the ground, clearly acting on the impulse to destroy a cursed armor. Bao calmly faces the attacker, remarking on their hostile entrance, yet welcoming the challenge with an eager glint. He prepares himself to strike, acknowledging the ki of 50 cursed armors now fueling his enhanced strength. Confident in his rapidly rising power, he turns toward his new opponent, eager to test his skills. Suddenly, a helmet rolls across the ground, drawing everyone's startled attention. From behind the fallen armor, an aged man slowly rises, gripping a massive sword for support. Gwen's eyes widen in utter shock. As recognition dawns, this is none other than Roth, one of the legendary monarchs himself. The palpable tension breaks as Bao quickly apologizes, realizing it was all just a big misunderstanding. As they talk, Roth observes Bao's immense power with a clear sense of unease, and Gwen confirms that Bao can indeed freely control the cursed armors. Bao. Meanwhile, he wonders aloud if this old man truly is one of the kings, remarking on just how different he appears. Gwen recognizes him as the most influential of the 11 monarchs, who once ruled the entire continent. Roth smiles softly, fondly recalling holding Gwen as a baby, and expressing surprise that she hasn't changed a bit. The soldiers whisper amongst themselves, astonished that this legendary king, who built the nation with Gwen's father, still lives. Gwen apologizes for the misunderstanding, and expresses admiration for his sheer endurance in fighting the cursed armors all alone. Filled with hope, she pleads for him to join their cause, to find the remaining kings, and finally end this calamity. Roth's expression darkens as he reveals the 11 kings once united, but their alliance fell when the cursed armor army annihilated them. His tone grows grim as he admits pride in Gwen's resolve, yet warns that the cursed calamity itself is far more terrifying than she realizes. Roth's voice echoes through the ruins as he declares that the cursed armor calamity is unstoppable. As Gwen freezes in place, her expression blank and lifeless as the weight of his words sinks in. Gwen repeats Roth's claim that the cursed armor calamity cannot be stopped. Roth explains that even the combined strength of the 11 kings failed, leaving no one capable of standing against the cursed army. Bao and his allies question how powerful the cursed armors truly are, while Roth admits that every knight has fallen, leaving him as the last survivor. Gwen trembles in shock, unable to grasp the scale of the devastation. Roth corrects her faint despair, reminding everyone that not all hope is lost, as the King's Stone still endures. He vows to defend the remaining survivors and preserve the kingdom's legacy, as long as its statues still stand. Gwen gazes at him with admiration, calling him her idol and acknowledging his worthiness of legend. After resting, the group prepares to escort the survivors toward the only safe haven left, a fortified church. Gwen volunteers to help guide the survivors, but their frightened screams echo as they back away in panic. Roth quietly remarks that their fear is justified, for to them, a cursed armor still stands among them. Bao laughs awkwardly, insisting he's harmless, but Roth's expression turns cold. Roth suddenly lashes out, shouting for Bao to leave. Roth's glare sharpens. He declares that no cursed armor will ever earn his trust, not even one favored by the princess herself. He warns Bao not to think acting human will change what he truly is, promising to strike him down at the very first sign of danger. Bao accepts the hostility with a simple shrug, admitting he understands why, and that he truly does resemble one. The group proceeds as Roth notes their swift progress toward the church, relieved that few cursed armors cross their path. Gwen explains why. Bao eliminated every nearby cursed armor all on his own. Gwen and the others thank him for his incredible effort, while Bao explains that he kept his distance to make everyone more comfortable. Gwen, still puzzled, asks why he continues to help despite Roth's clear animosity. Bao simply replies that he holds no resentment, understanding that a king who risks his very life for his people deserves nothing but respect. He explains the survivors unknowingly drew in the cursed armors, giving him the perfect chance to harvest their energy for the key. He notes that these enemies now pose little challenge to him. Suddenly, a cursed armor lunges at him from above. Its movements are fast, aggressive, and relentless. The creature stands tall, its ominous aura flaring. He quickly realizes this one is truly different, wielding its weapon with chilling, human-like precision. Intrigued, Bao remarks that it's finally something worth fighting, though still weak compared to his immense strength. He drives his blade swiftly through the armor, expecting to extract even more Kai, but as the armor spectacularly breaks apart, he's utterly shocked to find a human body inside. He calls out in confusion, and Roth clarifies grimly. It's a possessive, cursed armor. He explains these armors consume pure life energy, turning hosts into stronger, sentient versions of themselves, far deadlier than any ordinary cursed armor. Bao observes the fallen body, explaining that normally, a host could free themselves after draining the armor's chi, but this one's life force was tragically and completely spent. Moments later, they finally reach the church. Standing before its imposing, towering gates, Roth assures them that despite its worn exterior, the church is well stocked and incredibly safe, even hosting small gatherings for other survivors. He leads them through a hidden rear entrance, calling out cheerfully to loudly announce his return. But inside, bodies lie horrifically scattered among the wreckage. Roth's face twists in pure shock as he realizes something is terribly, terribly wrong. A wave of horror engulfs him as he sees the church overrun, Kingstone's last sanctuary, now utterly defiled. Enraged, he confronts the cursed armors, closing in with blinding speed. Gwen calls out to Roth as Bao rushes in, shielding Roth from the brutal attack. Roth's voice trembles as disbelief washes over him, utterly unable to accept the sight before his eyes. Memories flood his mind. His nation, his knights, his family, all torn from him by war. His fury now peaks. As the hatred in his heart erupts against the cursed armors, Bao warns him of their overwhelming numbers. Realizing some of the enemies are possessive armors, he notices the armors are fused with living hosts, and swiftly begins absorbing their chi. His technique releases the possessed victims, freeing their bodies from the armor's grasp. Gwen realizes the freed hosts might be the missing survivors, and she rushes to assist them. She insists they're safe now, but the wounded man warns her, something else lurks nearby. With fading breath, he pleads for them to be cautious, urging Gwen to warn Roth. Bao reports that most of the cursed armors have been destroyed, and many survivors restored. Bao calls out to Roth, but he mutters obsessively, consumed by thoughts of the cursed armor. Suddenly, he lunges at Bao, roaring words like a curse and attacking with terrifying strength. Bao senses a dark energy radiating from Roth's body, stronger and more chaotic than before. Gwen watches in horror, noting how strange and twisted Roth has become. The wounded survivor reveals that Roth turned on everyone, becoming like the cursed armors he once fought, drawing them in with his corrupted chi. The man recalls how panic spread as Roth attacked indiscriminately, forcing terrified survivors to flee. Gwen realizes with dread, the people weren't screaming because of Bao, but because of Roth. Bao concludes grimly. That Roth has been overtaken by the possessive cursed armor. Bao recognizes the aura surrounding Roth, and confirms without doubt that he's been overtaken by cursed armor. He realizes Roth's armor radiates a level of corruption and power, unlike any he has faced before. Gwen watches in disbelief as Roth charges forward, consumed by madness and hatred toward anything tainted. Roth roars his vow to destroy all cursed armors. Bao steadies himself, Noting that Roth still shows faint traces of awareness. Determined, Bao readies his blade, shouting he'll bring Roth back to his senses. Bao clashes with Roth head-on, their weapons colliding with explosive force. Bao notices his blows barely mark Roth's armor, since his transformation has wrapped his entire body in chi, making him nearly impervious to normal attacks. With a thunderous roar, Roth unleashes a massive surge of energy, forcing Bao back. Win watches in horror, realizing Roth has become something far beyond human. Bao steadies himself, muttering how the armor's defensive might rivals its offensive potential. Accepting the challenge, Bao channels his own chi, his sword glowing with focused energy. Chi bursts from his blade, as he charges forward with a devastating flying slash. The impact lands, but Bao's body trembles, paralyzed by the recoil of Roth's overwhelming energy. Bao pushes through the numbness, shouting as he swings again. Bao strikes with force, reminding Roth of the noble king he once was. He recalls his own past, shouting that he, too, once led loyal warriors who fought for their people. His voice trembles with frustration, as he demands to know what led Roth to fall so far. Gathering his strength, Bao vows to awaken the man buried beneath the cursed armor. He unleashes a mighty swing, his energy colliding with Roth's in a blinding flash. The explosion sends both kings flying, their armors cracking under the force. Bao steadies himself, combining his remaining energy into one final strike, accepting that his body may break. In the process, he channels his chi, gathering every fragment of power left within him. The air crackles as he invokes a secret technique, sending a blinding surge of golden energy crashing down toward Roth. The dust settles as Bao stands firm just before Roth. He realizes the sacred blade has begun to draw in Roth's chi. Golden flames surge around him as images flood his mind, memories that don't belong to him, but to Roth himself. Within those visions, Roth curses his fate, recalling how even a united coalition failed to defeat the four-eyed demon. He remembers the despair of retreat, vowing to survive for the sake of his kingdom. Chaos unfolds at King's Stone as cursed armors swarm the city, forcing Roth to lead his people to the church for safety. His soldiers fall one after another, their desperate cries echo, chipping away at his fading resolve. Alone on the battlefield, Roth questions, who is left? He realizes he's the last defender left for his people. Suddenly, his hand begins to glow with an ominous energy. He feels the armor's sinister power creeping toward him. Consumed by rage and desperation, Roth embraces the encroaching corruption, convinced it will grant him the power to shatter the cursed armors. Roth stands, encircled by glowing figures, mistaking them for the last of the cursed armors. Furious at their relentless persistence, he vows to annihilate every single one. As his body darkens further with corruption, his own soldiers call out, confused and terrified. But Roth no longer hears their pleas. His rage, now twisted, turns against his own men. Roth awakens to a scene of utter devastation. His eyes are vacant, searching for the cursed armors that are no longer there. Survivors scream and flee in terror from him, terrified by the monster he has become. While he calls out to them, bewildered, Bao slowly lowers his sword in somber silence, finally grasping the tragic truth behind Roth's fall. He realizes Roth's heart had remained pure all along, but his will was devoured by the evil chi coursing through him. The survivors gather, disbelief etched on their faces, questioning if Roth's compassion was ever truly real. Gwen stares, grief-stricken, at the fallen king. Bao lowers his weapon, his voice heavy with sorrow, as he admits that the truth behind Roth's downfall isn't what it truly appears to be. He begins to reveal the horrifying truth, but his words falter as Roth urgently tells him to run. He warns them to run once more, his voice filled with palpable dread, as if sensing an even greater horror approaching. Bao and Gwen look up to see the sky twisting open, a blinding, ominous purple light forming above them. Gwen notices the light intensify rapidly, but Bao recognizes it as an immense surge of chi, descending with terrifying power from the heavens, tearing through stone and shattering the very sky. As Bao desperately shouts for everyone to run, Gwen demands an answer, her mind reeling from the overwhelming power. From the heart of the destruction, a lone figure emerges from the smoke. Gwen stares in absolute shock, recognizing the silhouette as someone she's seen before. Before the mysterious figure steps forward, his armor shone, ornate and regal. He stands as one of the 11 kings, commander of all armies. Bao confirms with dread that Bachi has also become a puppet under the cursed armor's control. Bao rallies everyone, urging them to prepare for battle, warning them that their struggle is far from over. He senses Excalibur's energy mixing with Roth's lingering chi, as Bachi's devastating attack tears through the battlefield. From the storm of destruction emerges hundreds of cursed armors, charging in unison under Bachi's command. Bachi chants menacingly as the cursed riders rise, vowing that none will survive once the stampede begins. He raises his hand and commands Excalibur to return, summoning the sword with overwhelming force. Bao braces himself, shielding Gwen and the others from the shockwave of Bachi's power. Bachi demands the blades surrender, and warns that if they resist, everyone in the area will perish. Bao steps forward to confront him, declaring he will not let Bachi harm his people. Bachi's voice echoes, cold and unforgiving, as he accuses Bao of defying the authority of the 11 kings. Bao scoffs at the notion as the system announces a new night. Bao declares that it is time for Bachi to face judgment for his sins. He steadies his stance, calling forth Roth as his warrior. Bachi glares venomously at Roth, and demands whether he intends to defy his command, as well. Roth steps forward beside Bao, rejecting Bachi's arrogance and preparing for battle. Gwen and the soldiers realize that the once rampaging Roth now fights alongside them. Inspired by the king's alliance, Gwen rallies the knights to join the fight. The united army charges forward, with renewed determination, against the cursed forces. Bachi smirks, acknowledging Excalibur's immense strength, but boasting that his power still surpasses all. He calls forth his ultimate technique, summoning an overwhelming flood of cursed armors. Roth turns toward Bao, and Bao expresses profound relief, realizing Roth has regained his mind at last. Roth, now fully human again, questions why Bao would restore his humanity after his disgrace. Bao acknowledges Roth's deep guilt, but reminds him that death is not redemption, and urges Roth to live and bear the weight of those who once believed in him. As he draws his sword, Bao tells him to atone through action and endurance. Roth asks why Bao still thinks he deserves another chance. Bao replies, sensing a genuine shift in Roth's aura. He quickly dismisses it as merely his own conviction. He then urges them both to refocus on the impending battle. Bachi unleashes a barrage of taunts at Roth, throwing his past cowardice and abandonment of the other kings back in his face. He further mocks him, feigning pity for Roth's utter foolishness, then unveils the horrifying truth of what transpired after his escape. Bachi vehemently declares the Four-Eyed Lord to be the supreme, truth and rightful order of this world, asserting that surrender is the only righteous path. Roth, now utterly resolute, fiercely calls out to Bachi, warning him not to repeat his own past errors. Bachi merely laughs, then reveals the horrific truth. His soldiers' very souls have become integral to his power. Shocked by this monstrous cruelty, Gwen realizes he willingly sacrificed his own men to strengthen himself. Bao lunges forward, enraged, demanding Bachi reveal everything he knows about the Four-Eyed Lord. Bachi parries his attack with a mocking grin, questioning who truly overestimates their own strength. Excalibur begins siphoning Bachi's energy, but the dark aura around him shows no signs of fading. Instead, Bao feels his own strength rapidly draining away, struggling to keep pace with Bachi's overwhelming chi. His cursed armor army also begins to falter, under the crushing weight of Bachi's escalating power. Bao recognizes the sheer scale of this threat, noting Bachi's chi far surpasses his own cultivation stage. Bachi declares this power originates from the Four-Eyed Demon, and demands Bao's immediate surrender, declaring him utterly unworthy to wield Excalibur. Before Bachi can strike, Gwen steps in, cutting through his arrogant words. She bravely stands her ground, declaring that Bachi himself is the one unworthy of such power. Bachi narrows his eyes, recognizing her as the princess of Karen City, a kingdom long destroyed. He mocks her, claiming she's blind to the true state of the world. Shadows emerge behind Bachi as he announces the arrival of others. They realize in horror that the remaining 11 kings have returned. Bachi sneers, revealing that all of them now serve under the blessing of the Four-Eyed Lord. Bachi taunts Roth for his hesitation, claiming none of them share his divine swordsmanship. Bao braces himself as the kings begin to encircle him. He realizes he's utterly outmatched and critically low on chi, unable to withstand another relentless wave of attacks. Activating his secret technique, he shouts for everyone to fall back immediately, realizing their current state leaves them no chance. The cursed kings watch the retreat with utter disdain, scoffing at them as fools for denying the Four-Eyed Lord's divinity. Bachi raises his hands, channeling a massive surge of cursed energy. He declares they can simply retrieve Excalibur, once everything around it has been reduced to rubble. The impact explodes, tearing through the ancient ruins, and Gwen panics as the entire structure begins to collapse. Bao identifies the destruction as the fall of the 11th king statue, realizing their only exit is about to be sealed. Determined, he tells the others to make their escape, while he stays behind to hold their enemies off. Bao stands firm, unwavering, refusing to let the statues, symbolizing their legacy, fall, without resistance. Suddenly, Roth shoves him away, muttering that this is not where Bao's story should end. Roth tells them to go, to leave it to him, to uphold the symbol of the past. He accepts this as the ultimate price for his sins, calling it his final act of redemption. As the others flee, Roth's voice echoes, acknowledging Bao as a true king. If they ever cross paths again, a memory crosses Roth's mind. And his final thoughts, thank Bao as he strains under the immense weight. He shouts that he believes, if anyone can end this, it will be Bao. He then turns to Gwen. Roth's voice booms through the crumbling rubble, entrusting her to become a true knight, worthy of her title. Carl calls to her, urging her to flee, but her voice is suspended, caught as she calls out to Roth. Faded memories flash. Soldiers accusing Roth of deceit and betrayal. Realizing Roth's resolve had never wavered, not even from the start. Beneath the fallen ruins, the cursed kings mock Roth's desperate resistance, confident they'll overtake the others soon enough. Roth laughs weakly, surprising them with his calm acceptance. Roth admits he's amused by the bitter irony of their long-standing rivalry, only to learn the true king was never one of them after all. One of the cursed kings mocks Roth in response, questioning if Bao truly possesses the worthiness of a real king. Roth admits his belief may sound baseless, but it's something he deeply times feels asterisk. With fierce conviction, he then declares, mortals could never truly comprehend what defines a king. Meanwhile, Bao and Gwen continue their desperate escape across a barren field, the cursed army rapidly closing in. Bao realizes they can't keep fleeing forever. He desperately needs a place to recover his chi. Gwen recalls an abandoned castle nearby where they can take refuge. Her thoughts drift back to Bachi's unsettling words about her homeland, a place ravaged and ruined by the cursed army's brutal attack. She leads them toward the desolate remains of her homeland, the very place she once called home. Meanwhile, the cursed kings realize Bao's group has escaped, and they remark on Roth's unexpected interference. Their leader orders King Allens to locate Excalibur's position. Immediately, Allens senses faint traces of Kai, and reports he can only discern the general direction. Their leader dismisses this limitation, declaring that escape is impossible, regardless. The tense moment breaks as one of the kings strikes a dramatic pose, earning confused looks from his allies. He admits he was only trying to look cool, lightening the grim mood elsewhere. At the outskirts of Kingstone, Bao suddenly collapses, and his armor shatters apart. Gwen and the others panic, recalling he was meditating to restore his chi. Moments before, they rush to reassemble him. While Bao complains about the noise, his spirit reappears in a serene chamber, his soul returning to its inner realm. Suddenly, Vivi bursts into tears nearby, and dramatically mourns the recent events. Bao looks at her skeptically, questioning whether she's actually cursing him. Instead, Bao admits he miscalculated, realizing there are far stronger beings in the world than he expected. He reflects that the enemy's desire for Excalibur is relentless, and he vows to strengthen his chi drastically, to stand a chance against them. He notes that his current chi reserves are pitifully low, and Vivi confirms that the surrounding darkness mirrors that depletion. She explains that Camelot Hall once teemed with cursed knights, but now stands eerily empty. Vivi continues, revealing that the sealed knights within Excalibur are directly tied to his life force. His excessive use of chi in battle had drained their strength, causing them to fade. Bao worries whether the chi stored for his return to his world has also been lost. Vivi laughs, and proudly reveals it's still intact and safe within her possession. She explains that she chose to draw from his life-sustaining chi, instead of the reserve, which led to his exhaustion. She apologizes half-heartedly for the result. While Bao sighs in relief, he declares that sacrificing some life force is worth it, if it means avenging his fallen comrades. Examining the device, Vivi proudly reveals she redesigned it herself, boosting its capacity and refining its very form. She explains that even though his chi is depleted, his intense battle with Baji actually broadened his inner reserves. Bao reaches out, his hand nearing the chi flame. The instant his hand makes contact, a powerful surge of energy erupts. It engulfs both him and Vivi in a brilliant blaze. Vivi watches his power surge, recalling that the true upper limits of cultivation directly mirror the stages of the technique itself. Breaking through these limits allows a cultivator's stage to stabilize. Bao assesses his progress, the flames revealing his stunning advancement, the 7th stage of chi cultivation. Vivi is absolutely awed by the display, but Bao downplays it, noting his total chi remains too low to wield the full potential of this stage. However, he vows that if he can absorb enough chi to reach the 8th stage, he will finally be recognized as a true master. Vivi playfully offers to assist him with his breathing technique, but Bao insists that standard cultivation is far too slow. Bao decides to employ a secret technique to accelerate his recovery. Through it, he can refine qi into potent pills, capable of amplifying his absorption rate. With fierce determination, he declares that all he needs now are the right materials, like her hair, saliva, and affection, but then decides to look for materials outside instead. Bao and Vivi share a quiet moment as their foreheads gently touch. He thanks her sincerely, admitting that, although she can be strange, her help truly means a lot to him. Vivi smiles softly, saying she no longer feels like teasing him. For once, she curiously asks why he didn't draw qi from the female knight outside. Bao explains that her energy was already too weak, deciding instead to keep her and the others as emergency reserves. Back in the physical world, Gwen looks up as Bao's body begins to stir, and she realizes he's finally regained consciousness. Bao looks down at his armor, startled to find his torso covered in neatly wrapped bandages, charmingly decorated with flower patterns. He immediately assumes Gwen was the one who did it. Carl steps forward, revealing he's actually the one responsible, and Bao is genuinely surprised to see him again. Carl admits he only decorated the bandages because Gwen asked him to, reasoning that making them cute would at least lighten the mood. Bao humors the idea but says the colors could use some serious improvement, promptly changing them to a vibrant, bright red. With that, the group begins to move once more. Carl insists they need proper rest for efficient travel. To make the most of the break, Carl offers to prepare food for everyone. Bao immediately asks Carl where he plans to find ingredients way out here. To everyone's astonishment, Carl unlatches his armor, revealing an absurd stash of supplies hidden within. Among his provisions, freshly baked bread, beans, a wild rabbit, and an elaborate box of spices, all ready for cooking. Carl's spice box is packed with truly costly ingredients, so he keeps its key securely fastened to his waist. He begins his preparation, carefully selecting only the finest ingredients. With expert precision, he grinds the spices by hand, a task typically reserved for only the most skilled chefs. Once ready, the spices are mixed into a pot with the rabbit, meat, and beans. Carl even instructs everyone, from using utensils correctly to maintaining polite table manners. Still, he allows the group to eat freely, as it's a rare moment of peace. Mid-bite, Bao suddenly realizes that the very same spices used in the stew are perfect for crafting alchemy pills. He immediately demands Carl's spice box, insisting they'll serve a higher cause. He declares he'll use them in battle to defeat the 11 kings. Carl protests that the spices are rare and should be used sparingly, but Bao ignores him, finishing the process instantly. In a flash of energy, the concoction transforms into glowing alchemy pills, and Bao proudly proclaims these pills will be their key to victory. Bao proudly explains that the pills enhance the flow of qi, improve longevity, and even beautify the body. Gwen stares at the round pills, in utter disbelief. Even comparing them to sheep droppings, Bao realizes something feels off with the mixture, and that it might be missing an ingredient. He mentions finding a potential substitute, but notes it has already withered beyond use. Gwen examines the dried flower and identifies it as a black tulip. Bao asks if there are more nearby, but she explains that most have died out. After the cursed army's passage, she recalls that Carrion Castle might still have some, as it was once home to vast fields of the flower. The tulips symbolized chivalry, and were planted in honor of the first knight, and the first knight's name was Lance. Bao remembers how absorbing Roth's qi had strengthened him, and begins imagining what power lances might grant. He decides they've rested enough, and urges the group to push onward toward Carrion City. Their next crucial goal becomes crystal clear: to unearth the remaining black tulips and forge the perfect pill. Carrion City once stood tall, a massive fortress visible from miles away. But now, not even a whisper of its former grandeur remains. Bao feels his qi fading, draining fast from his very core. His desperation drives him forward, compelling him to rush ahead. The group finally nears their grim destination. Though the city now lies utterly decimated, a shadow of its past. Amidst the desolation, Gwen confirms this is what remains of Carrion City, a husk stripped bare of all black tulips. She explains that the cursed army's brutal attack annihilated everything and everyone in its path. Bao fiercely demands to know why the first knight didn't protect it. Eager to absorb his qi, Gwen solemnly reveals that Lance, the first knight, fell in battle against the cursed army. The valiant knight meant a great deal to Gwen, and that all they can do now is find the strength to move forward. Bao assesses that the ruins utterly lack the energy needed for proper cultivation, but suddenly, something amidst the rubble catches his sharp eye. Bao believes it could be the elusive black tulip they've been desperately searching for. The group then stumbles upon eerie, grotesque flower-like structures, sprouting menacingly from the desolated ruins. Bao senses the faint, unmistakable energy of the black tulip emanating from within and decides to investigate, despite the danger. As he approaches, the cursed flowers violently spring to life, biting and mercilessly draining away his remaining chi. He quickly consumes his unfinished pills, desperate to restore his strength. The pills take effect instantly, a potent surge of power, but they cause erratic, unsettling behavior, leaving him unstable, laughing like a madman, completely out of control. The group finally arrives deeper into the crumbling ruins, following the faint scent of the black tulip hidden beyond the shattered walls. They find massive, sinister, iron flower buds scattered ominously across the area, and the knights question, with palpable dread, what horrors could be lurking inside. Bao, utterly reckless, charges headlong to clear them out. The monstrous buds then violently split open, revealing hideous suits of cursed armor lurking within. The cursed armors crawl forth from the flowers, one terrifying monstrosity after another, surrounding the beleaguered group entirely. Gwen then shouts, her voice sharp with urgency, for everyone, to prepare for a desperate battle now. Overwhelmed by ravenous hunger and unstable, surging energy, Bao lashes out wildly and uncontrollably at the cursed armors, which deeply worries the others. Wynn examines a nearby armor piece and recognizes the unmistakable crest of Clarence. He was infamously known as the King of the Rose, a ruthless and insatiably ambitious tyrant, determined to dominate the entire Brit continent. Legends whisper tales of his unspeakable cruelty, devouring his own knights when they dared to defy him. He quickly earned a monstrous reputation. Gwen quickly connects the dots and realizes the strange energy from the ruins must be Clarence's work. As she wonders if he's still nearby, the ground suddenly begins to shift beneath them. A powerful cursed armor bursts forth from the debris, radiating an immense, menacing strength. Bao, still reeling from the unstable chi, charges in with reckless, ravenous hunger. He boldly taunts the cursed armor, calling it his next meal. But the creature fiercely retaliates. Bao unleashes a sloppy, yet incredibly powerful attack, desperately attempting to drain its chi. His energy bursts wildly as he strikes, clashing head-on with the monstrous opponent. The cursed armor clashes blades with Bao, and realizes too late that his opponent can wield sword techniques. The armor lunges past him, its blade aimed directly at Gwen. Her allies shout a frantic warning as the monster closes in, and they rush to shield her, blocking the strike at the very last second. The cursed warrior steadies itself, relentless in its terrifying assault. Gwen grows increasingly frustrated by their persistence. She grits her teeth, recognizing it as the same one that nearly struck her moments ago. The cursed armor then leaps toward Gwen, who bravely steps in and shields her with his own body. The cursed armor suddenly begins attacking its own kind instead of them. Bao watches it closely, recognizing a strange, controlled struggle within it. The armor trembles violently, as it desperately suppresses the evil chi coursing through it. Cracks spread rapidly across its body, and the corrupted shell begins to crumble and fall apart. Beneath the falling fragments, a red gleam starts to emerge from within. The knights instantly recognize the distinct crimson armor, and freeze in utter astonishment. A powerful light erupts, revealing a familiar figure standing amidst the wreckage. The group quickly realizes his fighting stance and weapon style are unmistakably similar, and they are left wondering if he truly survived. Gwen steps forward, tears welling in her eyes, as she recognizes the knight before her and calls his name. The knight kneels weakly and calls out to her. The knight asks Bao if he's alright, but he's too weak from the hunger caused by the pill's side effects. He dramatically collapses. Groaning about starvation, he desperately clings to Carl. Carl accidentally shoves him off. Irritated, Carl reminds him Gwen's attention isn't his to claim. Nearby, Gwen sits beside Lance. He's still regaining his strength. Suddenly, Lance lashes out. He shouts wildly about honor and sacrifice. His behavior grows erratic, and others hesitate to approach him. Bao observes that Lance only seems to recognize Gwen. Gwen desperately pleads for him to stop. Bao questions how he's still alive, when everyone believed him long dead. This also leaves Gwen with many questions. Bao senses an immense amount of evil chi from Lance's body. It came from Clarence. Lance must have faced him in battle. He lost and was possessed instead of killed. The evil chi within him has been battling his own for years. This left him unstable, even in his corrupted state. Yet, he instinctively protected Gwen without hesitation, which made her realize Lance hasn't changed at all. Bao notices Gwen's calm demeanor. He wonders how she can stay composed after seeing Lance alive. She lowers her gaze, recalling how Lance always taught that sacrifice was the highest form of honor. He believed his death should be celebrated, not mourned, and she carries that belief with her. Still, the knights shift their focus to helping Bao. who is fixated on Lance as a potential energy source. He charges forward, declaring his intent to drain Lance's chi. And Lance counters his attack. Even in his corrupted state, Lance suddenly challenges Bao, demanding to know if he's willing to die for his honor. Bao hesitates, giving an uncertain answer that depends on the situation. His hunger wins over reason, and he furiously orders Excalibur to drain Lance's energy. The sword fails to do so, overwhelmed by Lance's powerful chi. Lance declares that Bao lacks any sense of honor, and that he would never recognize him. Bao complains about how troublesome the Black Tulip has been, and absorbing Lance's chi proves to be just as difficult. The battle intensifies, officially marking the clash between Bao and Lance. Bao looks at his weakening energy, wondering if he, the sect leader, is truly going to starve to death in this world. Gwen rushes to Bao's side as he collapses from exhaustion. Lance scoffs, calling him weak and dishonorable, while questioning why Gwen worries for someone like Bao. She defends Bao, revealing he is the wielder of Excalibur, and a formidable candidate for the throne. Following Bao's words, they quickly locate the cursed flower buds, and right behind them, the ominous black tulips. But before they can even react, a terrifying swarm of cursed armors rises once more. Covered in black tulips, Gwen commands the knights to split up. Ordering half to protect Bao, she commands Lance to follow her. Lance struggles to accept that Bao could truly be the chosen king. Gwen observes that Lance's unstable state is a drastic change from his past. She tries to calm Lance, reminding him that she saw Bao draw Excalibur with her own eyes. Gwen explains how Bao channeled the sword's raw power to command the cursed armors with overwhelming might, wielding it with power beyond human comprehension. Gwen is left questioning Lance's remarks, especially his concern about how dangerous it will be. If what she said about Bao's power is true, Lance declares that a man without honor is inherently dangerous, capable of committing the greatest atrocities. He vows never to trust anyone unwilling to sacrifice for what is right, reaffirming his unwavering devotion to honor. Gwen looks down silently, her expression heavy with thought. She finally responds, saying, "A true king inspires courage and hope," reminding him of his own past teachings. And she recalls how Bao did exactly the same. Lance questions whether Bao can truly control Excalibur's power, while Gwen explains that his strength is completely drained, and he desperately needs time to recover his chi. Lance reluctantly accepts this explanation, deciding to wait until Bao has fully recovered before judging him. Gwen mentions that the black tulips can help in refining the pills needed for his recovery. Even as they fight off more cursed armors, Lance agrees to examine Bao after his full recovery. He warns that if Bao does not possess the qualities of a true king, he would execute him. Before she can even respond, Gwen notices the cursed armors beginning to merge together, their bodies fusing into a massive, monstrous shape. Lance tenses, realizing the immense danger as the fusion grows out of control. Gwen urges everyone to fall back, since they now have the black tulip. The group regroups at the ruins, as Gwen decides to deliver the black tulips to Bao, to help him refine his crucial recovery pills. Gwen watches as Bao's golden energy stirs to life, proving the tulips are indeed working. Lance continues battling nearby enemies, while eagerly asking if Bao has recovered yet, and Gwen replies that he still needs more time to recover. Their attention shifts dramatically as the ground begins to tremble. A massive shadow looms before them. A monstrous figure bursts forth from the ruins, towering impossibly high above the battlefield. Its grotesque form, like a cursed flower bud, its monstrous face hangs menacingly above them. Gwen questions, "Is that Clarence?" The knights panic, screaming, "It's a cursed monster!" Meanwhile, Gwen remembers Clarence's chilling vow to consume Carrion City. His terrible promise has manifested in the most horrifying way. Lance steps forward, his grip tightening on his weapon. He declares he remembers the fallen king who once defied them. Lance charges directly toward the monstrous figure, cursing it as a gluttonous beast that devours its own kind. The monster swings its massive, crushing claws. Explosions of raw force erupt violently around him. Gwen steps forward, declaring Bao still needs time to recover. She decides to hold the line herself. Her eyes burn with conviction as she proclaims Carrion City her home. No matter how utterly ruined it has become, she refuses to let this monster desecrate what remains. The two brave knights stand together, exchanging words as the monstrous beast looms over them. Lance is surprised by how much Gwen has grown stronger. She thanks him for his guidance from 8 years ago. Carrion City's towers stand tall beneath a peaceful sky. In the bustling, lively streets, townspeople chatter excitedly about a renowned knight known across the kingdom. The focus shifts to the fortress arena, where the first knight Lance prepares to make his selection. Standing tall and incredibly proud, he announces that only the truly worthy will earn the honor of knighthood. Under his command in the training grounds, Lance turns in sudden surprise. Upon seeing a young girl standing among the recruits, she looks up at him with fierce determination. She says she's heard he's the kingdom's strongest knight. She boldly asks him to train her, so she can become a great knight herself. Lance warns her that knighthood is no child's play, and she quickly insists that she already knows. She explains that as the king's only heir, she will inherit the throne one day. Her first step is to earn her place as a respected knight. The maids rush toward her, but Gwen calmly tells them she came with her father's permission. Lance decides there's no harm in allowing the young princess to stay, since she has her father's permission. He turns toward the setting sun, and instructs everyone to gather the next day at 5 a.m. The next day, training begins. Gwen's friend Carl doubts she'll actually show up, but she confidently declares she'll be there. Sure enough, Gwen arrives late, but quickly apologizes, vowing to be punctual next time. She even swears it on her knight's honor. Later that day, she asks Lance about the legend of the Night King and Excalibur, all while cradling her adorable pet cat. She comments that Lance's helmet reminds her of the tales. Soon, time flies by as Gwen steadily continues her training, maintaining her unwavering discipline for 3 whole years. She spars with all her might, but ultimately lands flat on her back, utterly exhausted in the beautiful tulip fields. Lance explains his choice of the black tulip field as their training ground, for a very specific reason. It symbolizes the very spirit of knighthood. He reminds her that a true knight must embody sacrifice, bravery, humility, justice, kindness, honesty, and unwavering loyalty. Gwen listens intently, her eyes sparkling with admiration as she clutches her pet close. She glances down at the dark tulips, wondering aloud if they come in any other colors. Lance replies that they certainly should. Sitting among the vibrant blooms, Gwen softly admits that she always imagined these tulips would look even more beautiful if they came in different colors too. During training, Gwen suddenly winces, clutching her side in pain, but insists it's absolutely nothing. Lance, however, worries he might have struck her too hard. That night, she lies awake in her room, still clutching her side and stifling her discomfort. Her faithful cat climbs onto the bed, meowing softly. She offers a weak smile and assures it she's fine. Holding her cherished pet close, she reminds herself that true knights must endure hardship, without a single complaint. Her duty as the future ruler, she thinks, is far heavier than any wound she could ever bear. Gwen then notices a black tulip clutched in her cat's mouth, realizing it must have come from their training field. She recalls her earlier conversation with Lance. Feeling inspired, she decides to try something new. With her cat's help, the very next morning, chaos erupts as Lance learns the princess has vanished. Carl explains that Gwen left for a hunting exercise, and somehow got separated from her guards. Deep within the forest, as night descends, fears grow for Gwen's safety. Deep within the dense woods, Gwen reappears. She's panting heavily, sword drawn, with her cat hissing fiercely beside her. They're being pursued by the shadowy silhouette of a knight. A massive, armored figure then emerges from the deep shadows. Gwen draws her blade, steeling herself for the coming fight. She demands to know why this mysterious warrior is attacking her. The creature lunges forward, and Gwen's cat bravely leaps to shield her. This makes her gasp, utterly horrified. But before the enemy can strike another blow, Lance appears, slashing with immense, decisive force. He arrived just in the nick of time, positioning himself squarely between Gwen and the armored foe. The armored foe then attacks Lance while his back is turned to Gwen. Confused, Lance realizes such a hit should have been fatal. Yet, the enemy relentlessly keeps moving. He also senses that this creature feels human, but isn't quite one at all. Gwen cries out, noticing blood dripping from Lance's armor. Gwen breaks down in tears right before Lance, distressed that both he and her cat were wounded, protecting her. Lance reassures her gently, his voice soft, explaining he chose to protect her of his own free will. He tells her, sacrifice is an honor for any true knight, just as her loyal cat did the very same. Gwen listens quietly, taking it all in, realizing the deep pain of loss and the fear that comes with it. Lance reminds her that as a future leader of her people, she must walk a difficult path of sacrifice and courage. He explains that the world itself is imperfect, and sometimes, sacrifice is truly necessary for the greater good. He urges her to remember sacrifice not as sorrow's weight, but as a powerful strength to move forward. Curious, he asks why she ventured into the forest alone, especially since no one had visited it in years. Gwen admits she went searching for rare white tulips, hoping to replace the dark, black ones that filled his room. Lance gently tells her the black tulips are more than enough. Gwen nods, promising to carry the profound lesson of sacrifice, and continue forward with unwavering resolve. Sitting alone in quiet, solemn silence, Gwen vows to stop her search for the elusive white tulips, and accept things exactly as they are. Later, she spends her days training relentlessly. Her expression hardened as she prepares to part ways with her beloved cat. On the chaotic battlefield, Lance leads the knights into fierce combat, rallying them desperately to defend Carrion City. Gwen rushes forward, kneeling beside the gravely wounded chief, desperately trying everything to save his life. Lance then urgently urges her to leave him behind. Shift focus to the soldiers still battling fiercely. The dying chief, with a faint voice, urges her to go and fulfill her duty. Gwen, however, staunchly refuses to abandon him, and not after all the battles they've fought side by side. Lance spins around abruptly. He shouts, warning her not to let the chief's sacrifice be in vain. She freezes, the gravity of his words sinking deep within her. Then, she tears her gaze away from the fallen chief, forcing herself to move forward, even as sorrow crushes her spirit. Lance's forces fight an endless, grueling battle. Their city is on the brink of being overrun by strange invaders. Nearby nations, already exhausted, have fallen one by one. Gwen asks if they're pushing forward once more, but Lance insists she needs to rest. He acknowledges her unwavering dedication and offers his apologies for the chief's tragic loss, which Gwen quietly accepts, admitting she now truly grasps the necessity of sacrifice. Lance places a resolute hand over his chest, vowing to lay down his own life if the situation demands it. Before Gwen can respond, a soldier bursts in with urgent news. The soldier reports, Carrion City has been breached. Flames are already consuming its very heart. They race to the burning capital, where chaos erupts in the streets, and the Duke awaits them. The Duke explains the attackers are the same mysterious troops, the very ones who decimated other nations. As Carrion Castle begins to fall, Gwen's eyes widen in terror at the horrifying thought of her father trapped inside, and Lance immediately offers to accompany her. Gwen races through the inferno of the castle, spotting him through the flames. Shock fills her eyes. Her father is completely surrounded, stabbed by multiple swords from those mysterious troops. 3 of them lunge at her as she screams. Wondering what they are, Lance swiftly carries her away from danger. She screams her father's name, a cry of pure anguish, realizing, too late, that he has already fallen. Lance urgently urges her to move, but the mysterious troops immediately cut them off. The exit collapses right behind them, trapping them as enemy forces close in from every side. She warns Lance, more mysterious troops are behind him. He fends them off fiercely, desperately trying to protect her. Suddenly, reinforcements blast through the rubble, shouting that they've opened a path for escape. Lance shouts for Gwen to flee, to make her escape, while fending off enemies closing in from every single direction. She staunchly refuses to abandon him, calling out for him to escape with her, as Carl urgently urges her to hurry. Lance takes a beat, his gaze lingering. He sees the impossible odds stacked against them. With grim resolve, a decision is made. He'll stay, a lone shield against the advancing horde. Gwen protests fiercely, refusing to leave his side, but he stops her cold, her defiance crumbling. He reminds her, she's meant to lead, not fall beside him, repeating the harsh lesson he'd taught her about sacrifice. Stepping forward, Lance draws his blade, glinting, ready to face the looming enemy, utterly alone. As battle rages, his final words echo in her mind. It was an honor, he'd said, to see how far you've come. Tears stream down Gwen's face, a desperate cry for his name, watching him vanish into the raging inferno. Lance strikes the collapsing walls, a desperate act, sealing the passage behind Gwen, blocking the advancing foe. Through the falling debris, his voice cuts through. He calls out, urging her, keep moving, don't look back. The explosion's force hurls Gwen and the others forward. As the very tunnel itself begins to crumble, coughing through choking dust, they finally realize, Lance destroyed the wall to block their exit, buying precious time. Gwen kneels amid the ruins, trembling, her thoughts drift to her father, her fallen city, and Lance's heroic last stand. The surviving knights beg her to take the lead, reminding her, the king has fallen. The heavy burden now rests solely on her shoulders. Lance's voice echoes, a haunting presence in her mind. His words of sacrifice and honor replay with painful clarity. She remembers his final command, always move forward, no matter what devastating loss she bears. Regaining her composure, a steely resolve takes hold. Gwen orders the remaining troops to gather survivors and flee, vanishing through the black tulip fields. With one last glance at the burning city, she shouts at her allies, keep moving forward. Now, somehow, she stands once more beside Lance. Fighting fiercely, shoulder to shoulder, he shouts orders, his usual conviction ringing true, vowing to protect her, no matter the deadly cost. Yet, she senses something profoundly times off about him. She still believes they only need to wait for Bao to recover. Bachi observes the chaos, declaring Excalibur is now within reach. He commands his forces, "Kill anyone who stands between us." And, the blade, Gwen stands beside Lance before a monstrous creature, realizing how surreal it feels, fighting alongside him again. Despite knowing the cursed armor brings nothing but ruin, she believes there must still be a way to end its dark power. Three menacing figures emerge from the encroaching darkness. Gwen and Lance both whip their heads towards Bocce, wondering why he'd chased them all this way. Bocce roars at Gwen, "Give me Bao." With Excalibur in hand, Lance steps forward, ordering the enemy to keep away from her. Just as he clashes blades against the cursed armors, Bocce senses the monstrous power of Clarence's ki, devouring wildly, consumed by uncontrollable urges. Bocce commands him to stop, reminding him this power was granted to fulfill their lord's grand purpose. Together, they vow to crush all opposition and seize Excalibur once and for all. Gwen realizes Clarence has fallen under enemy control, cursing this cruel turn of events. She watches in utter dread as multiple corrupted kings rally under one banner, their overwhelming might making victory impossible. Desperate, she turns to Lance, who grimly accepts that staying to fight would only lead to their certain deaths. Lance decides to destroy the castle, collapsing it to block their pursuit and buy them time to flee. He orders the soldiers to escape. As the ground trembles and debris fills the air, the group flees through the forest, Gwen checking anxiously on Bao, who remains unconscious behind them. The cursed armors close in, their metallic march echoing through the trees. Gwen suddenly realizes Lance is missing, only to learn he stayed behind to hold off the kings. She understands with dawning horror that he intends to repeat his past sacrifice for her sake. Refusing to abandon him, Gwen tries to turn back, but the soldiers stop her, reminding her of his final order, which is to keep moving forward in his honor. Surrounded by cursed armors, Gwen trembles in anger and grief, realizing nothing has changed from the tragic past she hoped to escape. She recalls Lance's final words about his sacrifice, torn between duty and the pain of losing him again. As enemies close in, she questions where she can possibly go, her resolve shaken amid the chaos. She fends off a sudden attack, but struggles to maintain her footing as the battle rages on. A radiant golden light bursts forth, revealing a mysterious, glowing, tortoise-like form. Bao argues, "That's no tortoise, but the completed chi manifestation," signaling his awakening. Gwen watches in relief as Bao rises, alive, and fully recovered. He credits the black tulip. Along with his stored chi pills, they accelerated his healing. As he assesses the situation, Bao senses the ominous energy of the pursuing kings closing in. His expression hardens, sensing Lance's fading presence. He realizes they left Lance to face death alone. Gwen denies abandoning Lance, but Bao senses the hesitation in her very chi. He feels her turmoil, a mix of loss and deep regret. She admits Lance always believed sacrificing himself was the greatest form of honor. Bao presses her further, pointing out her hesitation lies in choosing between duty and the man she refuses to lose again. Tears stream down her face as she recalls Lance's parting words, to remember his sacrifice and turn sorrow into strength. Bao tells her the sacrifice means death. She replies that Lance thinks differently. He challenges her with a piercing question, asking if she truly intends to let him die this time. This time, Lance's voice echoes in Gwen's mind, and she breaks down, shouting that she could never allow his death. Her determination reignites as she stands tall, vowing that honor means nothing if it costs him his life. She runs back toward the battlefield, shouting that she's going to save Lance. Despite the protests behind her, Bao assures his men that Gwen's hesitation is gone. Her chi now burns steady and resolute. Empowered by conviction, he dramatically declares his arrival, his aura blazing with brilliant golden light. Bao rushes through the chaos toward Lance's location, to prevent his death and absorb his chi. A surge of energy sweeps across the battlefield, revealing Excalibur's chi. Rapidly approaching, Lance lunges at his foe, striking before the enemy can even react. The corrupted knight mutters in disbelief, questioning if this chaotic clash could even be called a duel. He mocks Lance for his ideals, calling him a foolish knight, blinded by pride and duty. The battle intensifies, as Bao clashes with the enemy, blocking a strike about to hit Lance. Amid the chaos, Lance recognizes Bao's arrival, both exchanging brief, urgent words. Mid-combat, Bao asks Lance to be absorbed by his Excalibur. Lance scoffs, saying that wielding Excalibur alone doesn't make one a king. He charges forward, still criticizing Bao for failing to prove worthy of the blade's power. Lance insists a knight's true honor lies in sacrifice, even at the cost of his own death. Bao fiercely counters, asking if Lance ever considered how Gwen feels about his willingness to die. He argues Lance's so-called honor only brings pain, calling his ideals selfish and hollow. Bao admits he no longer shares those ideals, saying he once fought for sacrifice, but now fights to live for those he cares about. To him, surviving and moving forward with loved ones is a pride far greater than dying for glory. Bachi mocks their conviction, recalling Bao's humiliating defeat in King's Stone, and summoning his power. Bao, who is overflowing with ki, readies Excalibur once more, and his energy radiates brighter than before. He swings the blade with renewed strength, asking if this was the power Lance once spoke of. Both Lance and Bachi are surprised by how much power Excalibur now holds. Bao reflects on how Gwen's trust has given him purpose, reminding him of what he must protect. He asks Lance to fight by his side, believing their goals are the same. Lance admits their strength alone isn't enough, and agrees that uniting might be their best chance. Accepting Bao's resolve, he acknowledges his worthiness to wield Excalibur, and agrees to follow his plan. Though their ideals differ, Bachi says that mortals may never understand true honor as he does. Despite their differences, he pledges to fight beside Bao. For now, their alliance is sealed. As a message signifies Bao's approval of his new knight, Lance, Bachi mocks their alliance, confident that their combined strength is still meaningless before his power. Lance lunges forward, shattering the enemy's defenses, surprised to feel his strength surge mid-battle. Bao explains that their connection to Excalibur allows his ki to flow into Lance, amplifying his might. Lance admits he hasn't fully submitted to Bao's command yet, but notices his thoughts clearing, as fragments of memory begin to return. Lance realizes his strange state was caused by the cursed armor. Catching his breath, he lowers his sword. The monstrous Clarence turns his terrifying gaze on Gwen. His earth-shattering roar rattles the very battlefield. Bao shouts for Lance to protect Gwen while he holds the line. The princess gazes up in absolute horror. As the monstrous king barrels straight toward her, the ground violently splits apart in a devastating blast. As the creature's attack nearly strikes Gwen, Lance rushes in at the 11th hour. Shielding her from harm, he turns to her. He apologizes for making her worry. As she stares up at him in shock, Gwen senses a familiar warmth in his presence, realizing he feels just like his old self once more. Lance remembers how he lost his memories, back when Kairi City was ambushed. He confesses his regret for leaving her to fight alone. He vows to protect her once more, ready to lay down his life if it means keeping her safe. Lance and Gwen charge forward, united. Their blades slash through the monstrous, closing vines. Gwen refuses to accept his talk of sacrifice, vowing fiercely to fight by his side. Above them, Clarence gathers immense dark energy. His power coalesces, forming a massive core. The corrupted vines surge wildly, spreading destruction as they attempt to consume everything. Lance pulls Gwen close, warning her of the immense danger. He calls her naive for underestimating their foe. He tells her that sacrifice is truly inevitable. In a world as cruel as theirs, preparing to face the monster head-on, Bao dives into battle, his sword gleaming with radiant power. As he slashes through the dark energy, he realizes the black tulips in his armor are reacting to the pills stored in his body, amplifying his strength. The clash between light and darkness intensifies, as his brilliant golden aura expands, cutting through the corrupted mass. Standing firm amidst the chaos, Bao declares he has reached the 9th level of Qi cultivation, ready to end the fight. Bao is suddenly pushed back by an enemy strike. As the foe mocks Lance for lagging behind, he calls out to Lance, demanding to know why he's standing still amidst the chaos. Lance, bathed in golden energy, rises again as Bao urges him to fight with the strength worthy of the first knight. A burst of radiant power shields Gwen. As Lance deflects the monstrous assault, Gwen reveals the golden aura is Excalibur's power, a unique ability of Bao's, destined to end the cursed armor's reign. She turns to Bao, her faith unwavering, and reassures him, urging him to truly believe in their combined strength. Lance reflects on how he's always demanded others' trust, yet never learned to give it himself. He recalls his duty as the first knight, accepting sacrifice as his sole purpose until now. With calm resolve, he realizes he's no longer fighting alone, but surrounded by comrades strong enough to stand by his side. Clarence charges forward once more, forcing the knights onto the defensive. Just then, Bao calls out to Lance. Lance lowers his head, then meets Bao's eyes, a fierce determination in his gaze, as he asks for his strength. Bao smiles at the request, raising his arm as their powers synchronize for the coming strike. A flash of golden light envelops him, as he recalls the true meaning of honor. With their blades united, they unleash a blinding attack, declaring that true honor means fighting without sacrifice. Their combined might completely overwhelms the enemy, and Gwen cries out as Clarence collapses in utter defeat. As the dust begins to settle, Lance's mind drifts back to the day Carrion City fell, where he told Gwen to flee, while he stayed behind to face the invading army alone. He reflects on his wish for her to live with a knight's courage, yet free from the crushing weight of duty. In the present, his thought lingers. If only someone could bear her burdens, her true happiness might finally be possible. Lance faces Bao with unwavering resolve, asking if he can truly place his full trust in him. Bao chuckles from behind his helmet, assuring him he should have known the answer long ago. Lance challenges Bao to prove his title. As the true king and wielder of Excalibur, he declares his willingness to yield his strength. Bao braces himself as Lance's chi surges directly toward him. A vision reveals the two ways Excalibur can draw chi, through absolute victory or complete spiritual submission. Bao thanks Lance for his incredible trust, and prepares to unleash the full potential of his chi. Gwen and Lance watch in utter awe. As Bao withstands the cursed king's unrelenting strikes, golden energy radiates brilliantly from Bao's form, as his cultivation power shatters the 9th level, reaching astounding new heights. The enemy sneers at Bao's brilliance, immediately summoning reinforcements. As 2 more cursed kings burst from the shadows, the cursed kings unleash their overwhelming, combined might. Their monstrous forms descend, crushing everything with sheer force. Bao tightens his grip on Excalibur, his gaze resolute, declaring their power can no longer even touch his. As he calls upon the very forces of heaven and earth, channeling divine energy, he activates a forbidden, ancient art, engulfing the entire battlefield in brilliant golden light. The others watch, utterly spellbound, in awe. Their eyes widen as the explosion consumes the very sky itself. As the light fades, delicate tulip petals drift softly through the air, now turned pure white, transformed by the energy's purity. Lance explains, these were once the black tulips he had brought, now utterly transformed by Bao's powerful divine aura. Gwen gazes at the petals, falling softly all around her, a faint smile gracing her lips. As she whispers that such a sight feels like hope itself, Gwen smiles with profound relief as light breaks across the battlefield, realizing their long, arduous struggle has finally ended. Among the scattered debris, Clarence's body is revealed, shrunken and frail, the corruption finally having left him. But then, Bachi vows his twisted devotion to the four-eyed demon won't be in vain. Gwen gasps, realizing the cursed king still clings to life and power. The very air trembles as a massive, ominous force gathers, and a dark, formidable army begins to emerge from the horizon. Confused and utterly fearful, Gwen wonders if new reinforcements have arrived to turn the tide once again. Before she can even act, Carl arrives, bringing their soldiers. A striking woman, clad in gleaming armor, steps forward, her voice calm, yet undeniably commanding, telling them to focus solely on this brand new threat. Before any introductions can even be made, Bao tries to warn her, but she calmly identifies their foes as the corrupted 11 kings. She leaps forward with zero hesitation, striking down with fierce, unerring precision, and declaring this next battle is hers to finish. The corrupted king snarls in utter defiance, challenging her to come and face him head-on. Just then, another corrupted figure intervenes, questioning why one of their own, Olen's, has suddenly returned. Olen's urges them to show restraint, explaining that the four-eyed lord has ordered their withdrawal, and to recover their strength. The others reluctantly agree, promising to regroup and exact their vengeance once they've healed, before making a tactical retreat. The corrupted king vows to return and slaughter them all. His dark wings unfurl dramatically. The group watches in awe as he shifts into a monstrous form, then soars majestically into the sky. Gwen watches him vanish from sight, realizing even curses can adapt and make an escape. Soon after, Carl makes his reappearance, apologizing profusely for his delay, explaining he got sidetracked searching for rare black tulips. He then introduces the new allies he met along the way, warriors who arrived after hearing of their clash with the 11 kings. The silver-haired warrior introduces herself, formally revealing her name, Elena, a nun knight hailing from the Cabin Kingdom. Gwen asks if Elena's forces are also battling the cursed army. Elena confirms, explaining their army is a powerful coalition. Elena wonders if Gwen didn't hear the mysterious voices. Bao carefully studies their tactical approach, noticing the energy they wield feels similar to Ki. Meanwhile, Elena elaborates further, that only monks can perceive the divine message they follow. She explains how the Pope discovered the key to defeat the four-eyed demon, but then became trapped within Kingfisher Castle, sending a desperate message to kingdoms to form a coalition. Despite heavy losses, they managed to slay one of the 11 kings, King Max, but now they regroup to recover their strength. Elena then proposes that Bao and his companions join their march towards Kingfisher Castle to aid in their vital mission. Gwen hesitates, overwhelmed by new information, wondering what Bao's crucial judgment will be. Bao thoughtfully ponders the situation, that the coalition must have amassed many skilled warriors, and he considers that. He reasons that meeting the Pope could be an opportunity worth seizing. Bao smiles with confident assurance, noting that joining this coalition is a strategic move, since they hold the true key to defeating the four-eyed demon. With renewed energy, he rallies the entire group, declaring it's time to move out. To celebrate Lance's return, the group gathers for a joyous feast under the open sky. As they eat, Lance and Gwen wonder about Bao, learning he claims to meditate as a substitute for food. Lance offers to help Bao eat by knocking off his helmet. The helmet is knocked off, and sand floods out of his armor. Gwen explains that Bao isn't human at all, but a cursed armor, shocking Lance completely. Lance's strange energy begins to swiftly overtake his body. Golden light swirls around him as his consciousness begins to fade, and the curse's energy merges deep into his very being. Lance awakens in a dark, unfamiliar space, where two mysterious figures stand, confused by his sudden arrival. Vivi eyes him curiously, deciding that even if he's not exactly her type, she might just indulge herself a little bit anyway. But Bao then reveals his true, imposing appearance to Lance, casually introducing himself as Bao, and offhandedly mentioning the woman beside him is Vivi. Vivi, however, teasingly demands a much more detailed introduction, while Bao completely ignores her and begins explaining the true nature of this place. He describes their current surroundings as none other than Camelot Hall, the sacred inner sanctum of Excalibur itself. He further clarifies that Lance's presence here is merely a projection of his consciousness. Meanwhile, in the real world outside, Lance unconsciously stuffs bread into his mouth, lost in a trance. Mimicking Bao's mannerisms from inside the sanctum, Lance questions if this strange state of being is also tied to his cursed power. Vivi playfully mocks him, calling him naive for even questioning Bao's true nature, while Bao wonders aloud if Lance truly dares to challenge him. Solemnly, Lance accepts his fate, declaring full and absolute obedience to Bao's commands, regardless of his own cursed existence. Bao immediately tests Lance with a truly ridiculous order, forcing Lance to perform it begrudgingly, while still retaining his irritation and pride. Vivi then analyzes the effects of absorbing Lance's chi, noting that Bao's transformation technique has significantly strengthened, and they can now harness an air surge. She explains that this new chi boost acts as a temporary power-up, similar to the one Bao used during his battle with Bachi. Bao reflects on finally regaining his old abilities, while Lance immediately criticizes his reliance on such strange techniques, only to suddenly vomit mid-sentence. Vivi explains that Lance's real body, back outside, is trapped in a deep trance, overeating uncontrollably, prompting Bao to demand their quick return. But before they leave, Vivi teases Bao, suggesting he should bring more handsome men next time, but reassures him she'd still be loyal. She then seriously warns him not to depend on his secret arts for now, agreeing with Lance's earlier advice. When Bao asks why, she mysteriously refuses to elaborate, playfully pouting because he didn't show any jealousy. Back outside, Lance jolts awake violently, bread flying from his mouth as the others watch on in utter confusion. Days later, the group finally arrives at the coalition camp, overlooking a sprawling military base, bustling with tents and soldiers. They marvel, realizing that fighters from over 20 nations have united under the coalition's powerful banner. As they pass through the battlefield, they stumble upon heaps of destroyed, cursed armor remnants. Yet, King Max's corrupted remains still pulse ominously, drawing both their curiosity and unease. The group then gazes upon Kingfisher Castle, where a radiant beam of light from the Pope marks their ultimate objective. Bao senses the energy, realizing that the golden light, shining from the castle, is actually a manifestation of Qi. Bao questions why they can't enter, since it's right in front of them, and Elena explains it's due to a recent troublesome event. She adds that only leaders and their weaponless aides may enter the front. Handing over his sword, Bao explains that while he's suppressed Excalibur's Qi, only Lance is capable of handling it safely. He then declares that he and Gwen will proceed to the front, while the rest stay behind. Lance urges Bao to uphold the true spirit of a knight, Gwen explaining that they are allies, though she firmly believes Bao has the potential to become the true king of the continent. Elena cautions her to be patient, revealing that the coalition has gathered the mightiest, surviving warriors from across the lands. Among them stands one who commands universal respect, and bears the bloodline of the Cabin Kingdom, Holy Nightingale, the rightful heir and true king. The group reaches the front of the camp, once the meeting hall of Kingfisher Castle, where the coalition kings now gather for council. Inside, chaos erupts as rival kings argue over authority, hurling insults about weak nations and inferior soldiers. Elena explains that though united, the coalition is fractured by ambition, Every ruler still craves the throne, promised to whoever rescues the Pope first. The boastful King Lin interrupts the dispute, proclaiming himself the rightful one to enter the castle and claim glory. He turns toward Bao's group, suspiciously, questioning why unknown soldiers are in a place reserved for leaders. Elena calmly introduces Gwen and Bao, announcing their intent to join the coalition. The other rulers murmur in disbelief, scoffing at the idea of someone from a fallen kingdom standing among them. King Lin mocks Gwen, openly belittling her as a woman unfit to command, and offering her scraps instead of respect. Bao looks utterly unimpressed. He mutters under his breath about the arrogance and utter lack of manners from these supposed kings. An offended King Lin lashes out, charging at Bao in a furious rage, determined to assert his dominance through sheer brute force. Bao blocks Lin's initial attack head-on. Both knights attempt to gauge the other's strength. Lin taunts him, daring him to draw his blade, towering over Bao with a mix of arrogance and bloodlust, declaring a duel under the sacred ancient rules. Lin challenges Bao. Victory means joining the coalition, while defeat would mean forced departure. Gwen is shocked by their sheer numbers, realizing Lin exploited the rule regarding close companions to bring an entire unit, and Lin charges with brutal speed as Gwen helplessly watches. She cries out in alarm as Bao falters, while Lin mocks him, calling him weak and utterly unworthy. Bao feels something profoundly off within himself. His strength isn't flowing as it normally should. Overwhelmed, he's struck down and sent crashing to the floor. Under Lin's absolutely overpowering force, Lin laughs in triumph, ridiculing Bao's swordsmanship and ordering him to leave in utter disgrace. Bao admits his chi has been sealed away, explaining that after his recent advancement, he entered a breakthrough phase where his energy cannot yet be accessed. King Lin now turns his rage toward Gwen, shouting for her to remove her armor and degrading her with vile, disgusting words. Unfazed, Gwen mocks him right back, calling him even more repulsive than cursed armors. Bao claims he can still control others' chi, and that at such incredibly close range, cutting off hair would be an incredibly easy feat. Lin turns to him and sarcastically calls him a king among kings. In an instant, Lin lunges a strike towards Bao, demanding to know what Bao just did. Elena steps forward, ordering him to stand down, warning him not to provoke her any further. Everyone halts as a commanding presence approaches from behind. Gwen immediately recognizes the group, immediately identifying the tall figure flanked by 4 formidable armored nuns. The Holy Nightingale appears, radiant and utterly imposing. His presence alone overwhelms the entire battlefield. Gale steps in and demands to know what foolishness these kings are fighting over. The kings quickly try to diffuse the tension, pretending their argument was merely about who should enter the castle. First, they explain that Gale remains the most deserving of the throne. Lin grumbles, in defiance, and Gale questions what utter nonsense Lin is muttering. Lin challenges, demanding to know why Gale should lead. He insists he's just as qualified as anyone else. Gale, ever calm, simply responds. He asks if Lin has any objections to surrendering. Everyone watches in shock as Gale dramatically removes his helmet. Beneath the armor stands a striking man with long, flowing white hair. His piercing glare is filled with undeniable authority. With a sudden, overwhelming burst of power, Gale unleashes an immense, crushing pressure. It sends the other kings stumbling back, reeling. Wen feels the immense, suffocating force pressing down on her, and Bao wonders if this oppressive force is truly Gale's scales. Qi Lin completely collapses under the immense, unyielding pressure. The crushing pressure slowly begins to fade away, leaving the kings trembling, shaken, but remarkably alive. One by one, the kings reluctantly concede, agreeing to let Gale be the first to brave the castle's entrance. Now, outside the formidable Kingfisher Castle, Gwen cautiously approaches as a knight urgently warns her to stop. He shouts she could face the same gruesome fate as the body ahead. On the ground lies a horrifically charred corpse, burned beyond all recognition. The soldiers explain the man foolishly tried to enter the castle, but was instantly struck down by a devastating bolt of lightning. They recall the Pope's ominous words, that whoever enters first will prove worthy of becoming the one true king. Gale declares this the ultimate, perilous trial on the path to kingship. He steps forward, and his nuns calmly begin to remove their armor, reasoning that metal would only dangerously attract the deadly lightning. The kings watch intently as Gale steadily removes his armor, marveling at his impressive physique with a mix of awe and burning curiosity. The group then spots sudden movement far ahead. Noticing Gale and his nuns walking onto the precarious bridge toward the castle, lightning violently crashes down from the dark heavens above, striking the path with terrifying, divine intensity. As the nuns brace themselves, preparing for the devastating impact, the kings panic, utterly terrified as the lightning relentlessly strikes. Realizing just how truly dangerous this ferocious storm actually is, Gale struggles desperately to endure the relentless, powerful attack. His nuns shout, realizing the lightning feels incredibly unnatural. Gwen watches on in increasing alarm, realizing Gale might not be able to withstand this brutal onslaught much longer. Bao bravely rushes forward, completely ignoring the immense risk, determined to help, even with his chi dangerously sealed away. The nuns scream in terror as Gale collapses, overwhelmed by the storm. A deadly bolt strikes dangerously close, nearly hitting them all. Bao shields them from another brutal strike, and shouts for them to run. The grateful nuns profusely thank Bao for saving their lives, and he casually brushes it off, as if it were nothing. He then questions one of the stunned nuns. They wonder what became of Gale after that lightning strike. Then, she spots Lean emerging from the swirling mist. His expression remains unreadable as he surveys the chaotic aftermath. Lean smirks, finding Gale barely conscious on the ground. He interprets this incident as a clear sign of divine favor. The nun desperately tries to stop him, but Lean arrogantly declares Gale dead and gone, and insists on immediately choosing a new king. He drives his powerful sword into the very ground, and suddenly, the earth collapses beneath them, already weakened by that earlier devastating lightning strike. Gale and Bao plummet into the dark pit below. As debris and fractured light scatter wildly through the air, Lean watches their terrifying fall with a triumphant grin, declaring he'll take Gale's place and rule unchallenged in his stead. Down in the pit, Bao and Gale miraculously survive the fall. Bao comments on the deep divisions now forming among the kings. He reminds Gale that he was supposed to be the strongest among them all, questioning why he now looks so utterly distraught. Gale trembles violently and breaks into tears as he faces Bao. Bao ruthlessly mocks Gale's fearful, pathetic look, calling him timid for showing such weakness right after the lightning strike. He sneers, amused that someone who once commanded such authority could now appear so utterly shaken and broken. Gale's demeanor shifts instantly to fury as he lashes out, questioning Bao's strange fixation on his expressions. In an instant, Gale unleashes a powerful, raging gust of energy, sending Bao hurtling back through the confines of the pit. Bao steadies himself, which only deepens Gale's confusion. He questions how Bao possibly resisted his overwhelming aura, and Bao simply dismisses his intimidation attempt, saying such petty techniques only affect mere mortals. Gale then charges up divine energy, preparing to strike back with full force. Bao counters without a moment's hesitation, analyzing Gale's raw strength and mocking his utter lack of refined ki. Bao declares he can still easily overpower someone like Gale, even without accessing his full strength. Gale breaks down completely, begging Bao to kill him, now that he's been exposed as utterly weak. Bao tells Gale their immediate priority is finding a way back to the surface, and Gale tearfully recalls a hidden sewer passage, leading to a well that connects directly to the castle. The two make their way through the dark, cramped tunnel, following a faint, distant light up ahead. As Gale nervously points out the correct direction, Gale suddenly panics and screams, seeing something horrifying up ahead. Up ahead, they stumble upon a grotesque pile of cursed armors, causing Gale to cry out desperately for help. Bao notices that these cursed armors are completely blocking the tunnel to the well, and orders Gale to help him forcefully move the pile. As they clear the path forward, Bao mocks Gale for always putting on a tough front. Gale snaps back, recalling his father, a mighty conqueror who united countless lands. When his father passed away, Gale inherited everything, but lacked his father's strength and courage. Surrounded by scheming allied kingdoms, he feared they would rebel if they ever sensed his weakness. Despite his endless efforts to become stronger, no training could conquer the fear he felt inside. To uphold his image, he fabricated tales of victories and practiced fierce expressions to appear powerful. Gale recalls how he managed to convince all the allied kingdoms he was just as strong and capable as his father. Despite his fear, he vows to endure for Corbenic's honor and prosperity. Bao points out how Gale hides his pain behind a facade, trying to look composed while suffering inside. Moved by his honesty, Bao assures him he'll keep his secret safe and tell no one. As they continue forward, Bao spots the faint glow of the well's entrance. Still some distance away, he senses Elaine's familiar aura from above. Realizing Elaine has fallen in battle, struck down by Vegas on the surface, Elaine faces Bagheera, demanding he remember his allegiance to Gale, but he arrogantly dismisses her warnings. Bagheera declares Gale dead, and gathers the knights to choose a new leader for Kingfisher Castle. With twisted pride, he nominates himself, and challenges anyone who opposes him to step forward. Beneath the tunnels, Gale shouts that he must return, and prove to everyone that he's still alive. He warns that if Bagheera gains command, he'll massacre countless people from Corbenic to cement his rule. Bao urgently tells him not to rush, because of the strangeness of the corpses, but Gale ignores his warning. He strikes Bao in frustration, yelling for him to get out of his way. Bao quickly realizes the strange, purple energy enveloping Gale is evil chi, making him wonder if he's a cursed armor. But he spots something on Gale's body that turns his confusion. He immediately strikes Gale with a blast of purifying chi, to break the possession. Moments later, Gale regains consciousness, while Bao questions him with deadpan annoyance, pointing out the ridiculous armor still under his pants. Bao then reveals a fragment of infected rust was behind his sudden outburst. He describes it as evil chi, a byproduct that drives people insane. Gale remembers their troops' armor also began rusting. Ever since they camped near the castle, where the crystal is held, he senses the evil chi trail leading deeper underground. Bao realizes King Mars was never truly killed, but faked his death to spread his corruption. From beneath the castle, Mars secretly unleashed dark energy through the sewers, affecting the entire base camp above. Bao warns that if they don't stop Mars soon, the evil rust will continue to spread uncontrollably. He imagines the horrifying outcome, the entire Alliance army, consumed and turned into cursed armors. Bao decides to purify the corrupted armors, blocking their path to the well entrance. Before he can finish, more cursed armors suddenly emerge, confirming Mars is aware of their plan. Bao shouts for Gale to hold them off. Gale protests he's too weak to fight them. Bao tells him his strong aura proves he already possesses powerful chi, and only his cowardice is suppressing his energy. Bao clarifies it means unlocking Gale's vessels. As he unlocks these vital points, Bao tells him the cursed armors are no threat to him anymore, and orders him to fight. But Gale is still hesitant, nervously admitting he doesn't know any fighting techniques. Bao tells Gale not to overthink it, but to focus his chi, the same way he does when pretending to act brave. He instructs him to visualize the chi hardening within his body, until it becomes his true strength. This causes Gale's punches to explode with golden energy, that sends cursed armors flying. Bao notes they only need to clear a path to the well entrance, before sensing Gwen's chi. Above, on the surface, Gwen confronts Biggis, urging him to stop his violent bid for kingship. Biggis mocks her, declaring no one dares oppose him. Now, with Gale and Bao presumed dead, he scorns Gwen for being a woman, claiming she has no right to challenge him, just as he strikes her. Despite the insult, Gwen defiantly states she already has someone she believes in. Biggis sneers, asking if she means the weak soldier who once followed her. Gwen proudly declares that Bao is destined to become the true king. It was he who had drawn the legendary sword from the stone. Bagheera erupts into scornful laughter, mocking the ridiculous notion that a fairy tale could decide a king. Bagheera scoffs at her foolish belief, and swiftly swings his blade, declaring that a woman like her has no place in his world. But before his strike can even land, the ground erupts as Gale and Bo suddenly burst through the floor. A shocked Biggis spins around, searching for the source of the sudden attack. Bao emerges from the debris, standing tall beside Gale, greeting Gwen, and hoping they haven't arrived too late. Gwen smiles in pure relief, telling Bao his timing couldn't have been more perfect, and that he truly arrived like a king. Elaine cries out to Gale, relief flooding her voice, as the group quickly regains their footing after the sudden chaos. Gale quickly reassures the nuns that he's fine. With Gale now alive, Elaine declares there's no longer any need to reselect who will enter the castle, and demands Bagas explain his earlier, despicable actions. Bagas arrogantly refuses to justify himself, and instead, with a sneer, challenges them all to continue fighting for the right to enter. Gale realizes his newfound strength might just give him the courage he needs against the tyrant. But as Bagas charges, Gale's newfound confidence immediately falters, and he completely panics at the terrifying sight before him. He desperately rallies himself, insisting he has truly grown stronger, proving it by smashing through the ground with his bare fists. Suddenly, a sharp pain strikes as his chi completely fails to respond, causing him to cry out in bewildered confusion. Bao quickly steadies him, placing a helmet over his head to help him hide his sudden, weakened state. Gwen commands the nuns to quickly don their armor, preparing for the inevitable next wave of battle. Bao explains to Gale that pure fear caused his chi to retreat inward, making Gale quietly, but painfully, accept his weakness. Bao reminds him that true courage is found in continuing to fight, despite knowing one's own limits. The nuns offer to handle the formalities of victory, while asking Gale to rest and recover, honoring him just as they did in past battles. Biggis then boldly calls for any challengers, and Gwen immediately questions the army's unsettling silence, frustrated that no one dares to stand against such blatant arrogance. Elaine explains that Biggis has long ruled them through fear and brutal violence, punishing anyone who dares to even resist. Bao calmly tries to reason with Bagheera, warning that the rust consuming him is a dangerous infection from King Mars. But Bagheera refuses to listen, striking Bao in a furious rage, calling his warning nothing but nonsense. Gwen shouts for Bao to be careful. Bigus viciously mocks Bao, calling him utterly worthless and unskilled. Their blades clash, and Bao grits his teeth. He laments his powers are far too limited. He still can't harness his full energy. Bagus strikes Bao with a devastating blow. Gwen cries out his name, racked with concern. Bao zites Bagus's hand, striking him back. He's determined to purify Bagus's corrupted energy, but his attempt is fiercely blocked. Dark energy erupts violently from Bagus's body. The infection spreads rapidly across the ground, and he notices strange rust surging up from below. Countless cursed armors begin to rise. They quickly fill the battlefield. Gwen watches in horror as cursed armors swarm around them. Nearby soldiers panic as these rusted figures approach. Bao warns them the evil rust is accelerating. It's spreading faster than ever. Gwen glances behind her, horrified by King Mars's monstrous transformation. Bagus laughs maniacally. He claims the corruption surging through him feels exhilarating. He hungers for even more power. The corruption within him grows uncontrollable. His soldiers panic, begging for guidance as he stares blankly. With a roar, he seizes a knight and violently consumes his life force. His craving intensifies. He screams for more, declaring his desire to be the one true king. The sky darkens as King Mars's massive, corrupted form descends toward Bagus. Bagus writhes in both pain and laughter. As the monstrous energy merges with his body, the others watch in horror as he mutates, realizing King Mars's evil energy has taken physical form through Bagus. One of the knights admits Bagus has lost his sanity. While he taunts them to fight for the throne, drunk on power, he unleashes a devastating blast. Carl arrives beside Gwen, shocked by the devastation and the monstrous transformation they witness. Bao starts to ask about Lance, but Carl immediately reports Lance has already rushed ahead into battle. Lance, mid-stride, hurls himself into the fray against the corrupted Bagus. With unshaken determination, he teases Bao, blaming him for all this destruction. Bao protests defensively, pointing at Bagus's monstrous figure as the real cause of the madness. Lance looks upon the corrupted knight with disgust, remarking his filthy appearance is intolerable. Lance, without a moment's hesitation, declares his utter disdain for such corruption, and immediately dives in for a direct strike. Bagus fiercely counters back, warning Lance to stay far away from what he menacingly calls his king. Lance's blade pierces straight through. He spins mid-attack, regaining balance as he prepares for another devastating blow. He slashes downward with immense, raw force, clashing head-on once again with Bagus. The corrupted knight retaliates by summoning a massive surge of dark energy that violently expands across the entire battlefield. The corrupted energy bursts outward with terrifying speed, piercing through multiple knights and immediately spreading its vile infection. Gwen realizes, in dawning horror, that everyone near the blast is being tainted by the same insidious dark force. The surprise strike catches Lance completely off guard. He recoils in utter shock, realizing the cursed armor's touch directly spreads the corruption. Gwen warns that the infection is spreading rapidly, turning their brave soldiers into mindless, corrupted husks. She rushes desperately to Bao, bringing him the enchanted sword sealed in stone, while Lance collapses. Weakened by the rust, she panics, thinking Lance has already succumbed to the dreadful curse. But Bao explains the sword's unique ability. Absorption is actually draining his strength. Even with the legendary sword in hand, Bao admits he cannot fight properly, or at his full power, while still deeply within his breakthrough stage. He explains the process could take days, or even agonizing months, to complete, unless disrupted by a rare, divine event. Gwen gasps, startled by the thought, asking if such a momentous event could possibly occur here. Before Bao can respond, he suddenly remembers a nearby phenomenon that perfectly fits the description. Their plan is dramatically interrupted when Bagus reemerges and taunts Bao. Gritting his teeth in irritation, Bagus mocks him, refusing to dirty his own hands, and instead conjures a devastating blast of dark power to strike. Bao is violently thrown through the air, directly toward the path of tribulation. Landing hard, Bao steadies himself, and surprisingly, thanks Bagus for sending him exactly where he needed to be. He reflects that heavenly catastrophes are powerful natural forces, used specifically to complete a breakthrough, and one of which often manifests as a bolt of lightning. A massive bolt of lightning suddenly strikes down. As Gwen instantly recognizes the divine energy she knows so well, Bao boldly steps forward, welcoming the raging storm as an incredible opportunity to grow stronger. Through its raw power, he dramatically calls upon the lightning to help him shatter his limits. The blinding light completely engulfs him. As the smoke clears, Bao stands bewildered. He wonders if he succeeded, as nothing seems to have changed. He quickly realizes he's stuck right before a full breakthrough. He calls out, desperate for one last surge of power. The sky flashes once more as he pleads for another strike, but the lightning begins veering towards the other knights instead. Elaine orders a retreat, but Bagas roars furiously, vowing to let no one escape his grasp. Bagas unleashes a terrifying dark technique, covering the entire battlefield in massive, spiked roots. The deadly thorns surge upward, forming a towering structure that lifts everyone into the air. With a menacing glare, Bagas declares no one will escape, and that the true trial begins right now. Electricity crackles through the sky as lightning converges, signaling an overwhelming incoming strike. The thunder crashes down, scattering everyone with explosive force. Amid the chaos, Bao climbs the towering structure, realizing the lightning is targeting its peak, and deciding to reach it by staying on the ground. He starts to wonder how the others are faring above the storm. Dust settles above, and everyone seems to remain intact. Lance asks if Bagas is one of the 11 kings. Gwen explains he's merely borrowing King Mars's power. Lance scoffs, saying if that's the case, then Bagas is nothing to fear. He urges the others to finish him fast so they can return to the ground. He notices strange energy consuming soldiers around him, their armor corroding with terrifying rust. They realize, in utter horror, that the rust infecting their bodies causes them to violently explode. Bagas revels in the chaos, commanding the corruption to spread even faster. He boasts that fighting so many enemies taught him how to wield his newfound power perfectly. Gwen watches in sheer disbelief, realizing Bagas now sounds disturbingly similar to King Mars. He declares his twisted plan to infect everyone, claiming their bodies will serve as fuel for his ascension. The nuns rush towards Gale, urging him to take cover while they valiantly hold the line. Despite their injuries, they insist it's their duty to protect him, even as the devastating blasts tear the ground apart. As the blinding light consumes them, their final words echo, "Gale, keep living." Gwen looks up, as the dark clouds churn once more, realizing the lightning is striking right toward him again. Bao finally reaches them, and she starts to worry about him being struck by lightning earlier. Bao reassures her, claiming he's perfectly fine, and explains he actually needs this lightning to complete his breakthrough. He then calls out to Lance, demanding to be hurled directly toward the lightning's core. Despite his confusion, Lance trusts him, launching Bao high into the swirling storm. Without a moment's hesitation, Bao soars upward, his body ready to meet the surging lightning. But at the last moment, the bolts twist unpredictably, and Lance senses the lightning veering toward him instead. The powerful bolt immediately slams down. Lance survives the hit, coughing violently, but assures everyone he's still standing strong. Watching closely, Bao senses the lightning originates from a specific spot, atop the towering structure. He decides to charge forward toward the lightning himself, determined to reach it no matter what obstacles block his path. Gwen and the knights cover his advance, fighting off waves of enemies while urging him to keep moving. Gale, filled with guilt and crippling self-doubt, watches his allies struggle and blames himself for their suffering. Overwhelmed by helplessness, he desperately wishes he could do something to change the situation. Bao silences him with a swift strike, snapping him back to reality and telling him to stop overthinking. Bao commands Gale to hold off the spreading rust and clear his path toward the lightning. Gale, shaken but determined, resolves to face the danger head-on. Despite his crippling fear, he steels his nerves, repeating to himself that he can do it. He forces courage to take over. Suddenly, Biggis appears behind him and questions his actions. Biggis confronts him, demanding to know if he intends to stand in his way. He looms over Gale, who struggles to collect himself. Biggis mocks him, asking if Gale believes he's still scared of him. When Gale falls, Biggis immediately laughs and mocks him, calling him worthless as he unleashes a devastating wave of corruption, intent on wiping out everyone in sight. Gale watches in horror as Bao is struck mid-air and sent crashing down. Lampicus then turns his rage toward Gale, taunting him with cruel words and hatred. He sneers, threatening to reduce Gale to ashes by using the lightning against him. Gale admits his fear and weakness, but begins to find strength in acknowledging it. Bao's words echo in his mind. He reminds him that true bravery means fighting through his fear. Fueled by those words, Gale charges forward with a desperate cry. Wynn realizes Gale's daring leap isn't reckless at all. It's entirely deliberate. He's using his armor's conductivity to channel the lightning right to himself. As he descends, the lightning trails right behind him, guiding its immense power directly to Bao's location. Bao calls out to him, just as Gale screams his name. Gale crashes down in a blinding explosion of light, declaring, "I've brought the lightning with me." The others watch, stunned, from afar. fearing both knights have perished in the colossal blast. Biggest then turns his wrath toward the remaining group, preparing to strike them down next. Just then, Bao activates a technique, cutting straight through Biggis's darkness. The knights stare on in absolute awe, as holy energy surges powerfully through the entire battlefield. Defying all expectations, Bao stabilizes Gale's chi and reassures him. Bao corrects himself, proudly proclaiming, "Gale, a true holy knight." Bao stands tall, resolute, beside his allies, told that Gale's fleeting act of courage could truly decide their victory. Bagus, however, mocks the very idea of victory, unleashing his rage and summoning a cursed blade fueled by pure hatred. His weapon pulses with dark, ominous power, its vila, rusted edge, spreading corruption that threatens to detonate upon impact. He sneers, taunting Bao by calling him a mere fool, and ridiculing the legend of the so-called true king. The monster's grotesque form expands, ranting about how hope itself will decay just like rust, until nothing remains. He proclaims the supremacy of his Dark Master, commanding the knights to either submit or utterly perish. Bao tightens his grip on his sword, quietly answering the vile insult with steady resolve. Bagus charges forward, screaming in pure fury. Their blades meet in a blinding burst of light, clashing against decay as Bao strikes back with absolutely everything he has. Bao ascends to an entirely new level of power, acknowledging that his sheer strength makes up for any lack of swordsmanship. The very battlefield trembles, as Bao absolutely overwhelms his enemy with a single, devastating strike, leaving the others in utter awe of his overwhelming strength. Flames surge wildly around him as he unleashes a powerful technique, summoning a blazing fire. His attacks rain down relentlessly, each strike infused with divine precision and an unstoppable force. The knights slowly begin to regain their senses, freed from the vile corruption that once clouded their minds. Watching from afar, the group marvels at Bao's incredible power, believing he is destined to become the true, rightful king. Biggis roars in pure, unadulterated anger, and calls upon King Urien, summoning a storm of divine lightning that rips the very sky asunder. As bolts of divine energy spiral relentlessly downward, Bao realizes this lightning hails from one of the 11 king's powers. With unwavering confidence, Bao answers the challenge, summoning his own devastating lightning strike, prepared to meet formidable power with equally formidable power. Their immense powers collide in a brilliant, blinding explosion, a cataclysmic storm that shakes the very heavens. Biggis boasts that by merging his evil chi with King Urien's power, he's forged an absolutely impenetrable defense. The fused energy erupts violently, a terrifying spectacle. Lightning surging with an unstoppable, destructive force. One of the knights struggles under the immense force, begging Gale for help. As the relentless lightning closes in from all sides, courage flickers back to life within him, making him charge forward, determined to protect his comrade. He's struck hard by the lightning, but absolutely refuses to back down. Gwen rushes to his side, concern etched on her face, and Lance mutters, questioning how someone so large could be so hesitant to fight. The words sting deeply, as Gale recalls the bitter ridicule of his past. But Bao's commanding voice cuts sharply through his self-doubt, telling him now is not the time to retreat. Bao urges him, keep going, don't give up now, or risk wasting everything they've fought so valiantly for. Bao commands him fiercely, strike now, Gale. And Gale, fueled by new resolve, clenches his fist. Bao calls out for Gale to unleash a powerful punch, as he gathers electrifying lightning through his own sword. Gale hesitates, a wave of self-doubt washing over his worth, but Bao reassures him firmly that with his unwavering support, he'll be absolutely fine, as long as he simply fights. Memories of his childhood flood back, painfully vivid, full of harsh mockery, incessant scolding, and the crushing feeling of being a burden, always hiding behind others. He wonders why, even now, he still depends on others to protect him. Determined, he clenches his fists tight, and declares his burning will to finally become strong on his own. Moments after the fierce battle concludes, Gale realizes Bao has already moved on to assist elsewhere. Bao tells him, "You landed those final, decisive blows, all by yourself, awakening your own incredible, true strength." Gwen cheers excitedly as clear cracks form on Biggis's mighty armor, proving Gale's attacks are undeniably working. Bao analyzes the situation. The enemy's armor, reinforced by the powerful wood element, naturally resists both fire and lightning attacks. However, Gale's potent aura carries the metal element, which naturally overcomes and shatters wood, making his strikes incredibly effective against it. Bao reveals he guided Gale to awaken his true power, explaining that Gale only ever lacked the courage to take that first step alone. He urges Gale to unleash his full, devastating strength, commanding him to shatter the enemy's armor once and for all. The enemy simply scoffs at the idea, mocking Gale for barely making a small crack, before threatening to utterly crush him. But instead, Gale steadies himself, remembering Bao's potent words, deciding to trust both his ally and his own burgeoning strength. This time, Vegas screams in pure, unbridled rage, claiming Gale will never be strong enough to defeat him. Gale charges forward, his fists glowing with fierce determination and power. He roars, striking with every ounce of his being, shattering straight through the enemy's iron defenses. The entire team watches in stunned awe, as an explosive burst of light signals Gale's triumphant victory. The fierce battle ends at last, and the group breathes a collective sigh of relief. They notice the menacing lightning fading, wondering if the Urian was also finally defeated. But Bao explains it was only a mere clone, hinting they will face the true Urian someday soon. With their immediate foes vanquished, the group turns toward the foreboding, looming castle, ready for whatever dark secrets await inside. The knights now debate who among them is truly most worthy to enter, speculating that Gale might only have succeeded through sheer luck alone. Bao, however, praises Gale's earlier astounding performance, calling his feigned fear a brilliant tactical move that completely caught the enemy off guard. Bao proudly declares he's witnessed Gale's incredible bravery and leadership firsthand. Two knights exchange skeptical glances, questioning Bao's obviously exaggerated praise. Gale looks utterly confused, as Bao insists he's only trying to help uphold his image. But Gale steps forward, refusing to hide behind false praise any longer. He admits openly that he's been a coward, lacking any true skill. Elaine watches in absolute shock as he bravely confesses. Gale reveals that his entire reputation was fabricated by his father, with his allies resolving most crises in his stead. He bows his head low, and apologizes to everyone for the deceptive lies that built his legacy. One of the knights expresses utter shock at Gale's raw confession, as Gale vows from this moment to grow stronger. From that moment on, Gale boldly declares his true ambition, to one day become a noble and truly respected king, shouting his unwavering resolve for all to hear. His powerful declaration instantly sparks tension as two knights step forward, accusing him of treachery and demanding swift retribution. Just then, another knight steps in, urging everyone to unite in their desperate struggle, and reminding them all that Gale fought bravely by their side. The nuns burst into tears, celebrating Gale for his incredible newfound courage. Regaining his composure, Gale quickly gathers the group, and proposes a crucial plan for who will lead the alliance into the castle. Nearby, Gwen smiles proudly, already thinking about preparing food for their growing army, and marveling at Bao's sheer influence. Bao brushes off the responsibility casually, claiming that leading mortals is absolutely nothing new to him. As the sun finally sets, Bao orders everyone to rest and prepare for their mission. To rescue the Pope, he knows the remnants of King Mars's dark essence seep into the walls, feeding countless cursed souls lurking inside. Deep within the castle's ominous depths, a monstrous voice booms, declaring they now control the fortress, and have hidden the Pope in a clandestine location. Bao challenges the enemy, confident that his strength has grown absolutely beyond measure. A new enemy reveals himself, Baldwin, the ruthless Rose King. The Rose King unleashes a truly devastating attack. The group watches in utter horror as his massive sword merges with the castle's power, amplifying its destructive, cataclysmic force. Gwen looks up in utter disbelief as the enormous blade crashes down right before her. Bao heroically leaps into action, shielding Gwen from the falling debris and swarming enemies. Gale screams in sheer panic as the castle itself comes alive, devouring the people all around them. He spots a looming danger behind Bao and shouts a warning as the very walls twist menacingly toward him. Baldwin descends, forcing Bao to brace himself for the impact. He mocks Bao, claiming his allies will only slow him down. He declares that bringing these untrained knights against 4 of the formidable 11 kings was a fatal mistake, as the castle erupts with cursed armors. Bao admits his error, reflecting on his old habit of facing battles alone, even when others are so willing to follow him. He realizes that true leadership means empowering his comrades, rather than shouldering absolutely everything himself. With renewed resolve, Bao gathers his immense energy and commands everyone to follow the powerful flow of his chi. The knights question his sudden audacious order, but Gale trusts him and leads the charge through the glowing trail. The group swiftly reaches their destination, guided by Bao's brilliant chi light. A knight questions their progress, filled with doubt. He points out their enemies still stand strong ahead, blocking the path forward. Gale instantly grasps Bao's meaning, understanding the strategy. He shouts aloud, "Focus all your strength on attacking the enemy." The knights rally, their determination blazing, ready to strike with every ounce of their might. Gale recognizes the familiar sensation now, and remembers Bao's lesson on the elements of Qi. Bao strategically arranges everyone by their elemental affinities, and grouping them where they hold the greatest advantage. Their enemies are utterly shocked by this sudden surge in strength, coming from those they once considered weak soldiers. The knights cheer, as their power flows in perfect harmony, while Gale laughs, finally realizing Bao's teachings. Bao praise Gale for learning so quickly, teasing him about his usual cowardly nature. Gwen starts to hesitate, uncertainty in her eyes, but Bao assures her that her water element will perfectly counter the enemy's fire. The Rose King mutters the names of fallen kings in disbelief, as monstrous tentacles lash out in fury. Bao shouts for Gwen to stay focused and alert. As the battle only intensifies, Bao explains that since their enemies also channel Qi, there must be vital acupoints where its flow intersects. During the clash, Bao guesses and points to what he thinks is the weak spot. His attack misses its mark. He quickly questions whether his assumption was wrong. Win recalls ancient knight dueling principles, reasoning that weak points are usually at the head or chest. Her strike lands true, throwing the enemy into complete disarray. As Bao praises her incredible intuition, he shouts to Lance and Gale, his voice ringing out, commanding everyone to target the enemy's heads. The enemy kings dismiss it as a mere bluff, and launch a devastating counterattack of their own. Lance and Gale brace themselves instead of dodging, strictly following Bao's instructions. They take the hit head-on, feeling absolutely no pain. Thanks to their opposing elemental alignment and firm belief, they rally together, their spirits soaring. Convinced that victory is certain because Bao said they could win, Baldwin unveils his terrifying forbidden technique, transforming into a truly monstrous being. Bao retaliates with a blinding surge of radiant energy, instantly overwhelming the corrupted form. The enemy, shocked by Bao's sudden strength, demands to know how he became so powerful. Bao reveals he's bypassed numerous cultivation stages, surging directly to the incarnation stage. He declares, "This is the might of the strongest Qi wielder," insisting he has no time to waste. Gwen cries out for guidance, completely unsure what to do next. Amidst the chaos, Bao tells her to clear her mind and follow his lead. Just as he unleashes a devastating technique alongside her, the enemy staggers back in agony, barely staying upright under the relentless assault. Bao keenly observes his stance, realizing Baldwin is fiercely guarding something behind him. Bao spots something peculiar near the enemy's feet, a delicate flower crown resting amidst the chaos. The Rose King freezes in shock, before instinctively reaching for the crown. Energy surges violently, as dark Qi bursts forth from the flower crown, flooding the battlefield with an ominous, chilling light. Vivi's voice echoes urgently as her projection suddenly appears, apologizing for the abrupt contact, but bearing a critical warning. She explains she's been monitoring the brutal fight, and senses the enemies are concealing a dangerous motive within their formidable power. Her tone turns gravely serious, as she admits this peculiar energy is something even he might not be able to overcome. Yet, she offers hope. If he can unlock the sword's full potential, the Excalibur may be his key to ultimate victory. The Rose King hovers above the crumbling pagoda, startled by the massive structure suddenly rising before him. Inside, the knights awaken, disoriented, questioning if they survived and where they've been brought. Bao realizes the sword's astonishing true potential, explaining how it now absorbs Qi across vast distances, and adapts its power freely. He manifests a towering pagoda from pure Qi, forming a radiant barrier around them. As his allies watch in utter awe, hope flickers, until they notice the Rose King channeling an even darker power above. Bao commands him to halt as he thrusts his sword forward. The spherical explosives evaporate around the Rose King. Bao explains that anything made from Qi can be reconstructed. As their enemy conjures up a new attack, Bao strikes forward, refusing to let him gather more power, declaring this battle's absolute end, as his sword cleaves clean through the enemy's Qi. The Rose King's mask cracks, his hollow gaze filled with utter disbelief, as his very power begins to fade away. He collapses to his knees, his eyes fixing on the flower crown lying on the ground. Refusing defeat, he funnels every last bit of his life force, determined not to fail in protecting what he once held dear. His power surges, returning to its former peak. He summons countless spectral soldiers. Bao responds, unleashing his own reconstruction, summoning a powerful counter to the onslaught. He warns the enemy his energy is spent, and continued. Struggle will only hasten his inevitable end. Bao notices the sinister power emanating from the flower crown, and vows to destroy it, along with the monster. Bao's tears through the air, as the Rose King's body begins to crumble and shatter. Memories flood the Rose King's rapidly fading mind, of his kingdom and the endless wars he waged for peace. He recalls his daughter asking if he would truly leave again, He sees himself promising to protect the realm for her, and one day, pass down the shining crown itself. His daughter smiles warmly at him. As she presents a crown of white flowers, she crafted herself, promising to find red ones with her father. The very next day, the memory fades as Baldwin leads his army into yet another battle. Commanding his soldiers to retreat and regroup, he turns back. Upon returning, he finds utter chaos. His own people have risen against him in rebellion. Panic fills his voice as he desperately searches through the ruins, desperately calling out for his daughter. He finds Angelica's lifeless body. Beside her now complete flower crown, the white petals stained crimson red. Resigned and utterly hollow, he joins the other kings in the war against the cursed armors, seeing no reason left to keep living. He acknowledges the four-eyed demon's immense strength, realizing he stands no chance against such overwhelming power. When the enemy presents the flower crown, he wonders if his daughter has somehow been brought back to life. Consumed by despair and overwhelming longing, the Rose King kneels before the sinister entity, pledging loyalty in exchange for her return. As Bao watches on, he recognizes the truth behind his enemy's rage and sorrow, questioning whether this path of devotion is truly what Baldwin truly desires. Bao reveals the truth, that the Lord of Four Eyes never revived his daughter, only crafting a cursed armor to mimic her form. The Rose King kneels before the hollow, false figure, his trembling hand reaches out as he whispers his daughter's name. Bao reflects that perhaps this illusion is exactly what the Rose King wished for all along. The group finally reaches the Pope, who grimly declares that everything is fated to end. Once the eternal crown is finally adorned, Bao calmly approaches the Pope, unfazed, explaining she likely understands energy control techniques, similar to the Qi from his own world. He then asks her to share her knowledge about the four-eyed demon. Gwen observes quietly from the sidelines, relieved to see that the Pope's condition has improved so much. The Pope then notices the Excalibur in Bao's hand, and questions if he's truly the one who commands it. Suddenly, her strength falters, and she begins coughing violently. Gwen wonders why the Pope seems suddenly opposed to Bao, hinting it might be tied to his deeply corrupted form. Bao bitterly admits he's used to being distrusted, quietly wondering to himself, if the Pope realized only his armor remains as his true body. Vivi offers to tend to the Pope's injuries, and urges Bao to don the eternal crown, to prove his strength. Suddenly, a dark, looming figure appears behind them, his voice heavy with regret over what's transpired, over how these disastrous events have unfolded. King Urien cries out in utter despair, before unleashing a self-destructive surge of devastating power, leaving the others horrified by his ultimate sacrifice. King Urien offers himself as a living sacrifice, sacrificing himself to summon the four-eyed demon. The soldiers look up in sheer horror as the massive entity takes form, recognizing it as the same terrifying presence from the cursed armor. Calamity Bao quickly dons the eternal crown, knowing it's the only way to end this catastrophe once and for all. A powerful surge of golden energy envelops him, the same strange sensation he once felt from the Excalibur, now returning stronger than ever before. Above, monstrous faces emerge, and Bao notices their anxiety, confirming that he's doing something absolutely right. Bao meets the swarm of horrors head-on, unleashing the full, overwhelming power of the crown. As Gwen watches, utterly speechless and in disbelief, he realizes the crown functions just like the sword, amplifying his ability to absorb and channel Qi exponentially. The enemy grows restless as Bao's power rapidly increases, struggling desperately to resist the crown's immense pull. As the chaotic battlefield finally stabilizes, the knights regroup and quickly ensure the Pope's safety. As Vivi reassures them, the Pope is safe under her vigilant care. Gale thanks her, but senses something deeply disturbing within the Pope's Qi, a deep and growing terror that she simply cannot hide. As Vivi approaches the ailing Pope, Gale's voice echoes, whispering about making a grave mistake. The Pope dramatically turns to face Vivi. She notes how Vivi has isolated their Qi link from everyone else, ensuring they can speak in complete privacy. Her tone drips with undisguised disdain, as she declares events are unfolding exactly as Vivi planned. Vivi offers a knowing smile, stating that while their goals may differ, they aren't truly enemies. The Pope wonders aloud how Bao would react if he knew the full truth, while Vivi maintains she's helping him save his world outside. Meanwhile, monstrous entities surge relentlessly toward Bao. He gathers his Qi with unwavering, laser-sharp focus. He boldly channels the enemy's own power right back against them, unleashing a truly crushing sword, technique that perfectly merges raw strength and unyielding stability. Bao declares it incredibly effective. As his gaze sweeps forward, the team recognizes the resurrected figures of long-fallen kings, their remains now mere twisted puppets. Bao calmly analyzes the grim situation, noting that despite their overwhelming numbers, These summoned corpses lack any new, unique abilities. Bao channels an immense surge of chi through his mighty weapon, confident he can now overpower every single enemy before him, but the overwhelming energy begins to severely strain his body, as he struggles to control both the crown and sword simultaneously. Despite the searing pain, he steadies himself, determined to endure and push through the sheer chaos surrounding him. He realizes the enemy is connecting multiple beings through chi, forming a complex network, much like acupuncture points. The energy around the group suddenly turns violent, as dark tendrils of chi viciously lash out. Gwen cries out to Bao, her voice filled with alarm. Bao grits his teeth, his expression etched with frustration. He commands himself to stay strong, recognizing the same strange, unsettling resonance from before. He remembers how chaos spread like wildfire back in his own world. As his disciples panicked and desperately called out to him, his focus sharpens beneath his helmet. Bao raises his sword high, merging the crown and sword into one devastating weapon. As he unleashes their full, terrifying absorption power, he calls upon a powerful, secret technique, channeling a truly devastating blow. The violent clash reveals the massive, swirling chi core of the four-eyed demon, pulsing with chaotic, raw energy. Realizing this golden opportunity, Bao plans to destroy the being by capturing its core and absorbing its immense chi. His heart swells with surging hope as he imagines using this power to finally return to his original world. Suddenly, the Eternal Crown unleashes a violent surge of resistance, shattering his focus and destabilizing his control. Wen watches, gripped by anxiety, realizing Bao is fighting a losing battle for control. Vivi observes him closely, recognizing his weakened state, prevents him from wielding the crown's full power. The Pope falters, muttering about protecting her world, no matter the cost. Gale watches the Pope's energy vanish. Vivi stares in utter disbelief, realizing the Pope sacrificed her last key to make this move. Vivi notes that Bao will now struggle with the Eternal Crown, as he roars in agony, overwhelmed by its raw energy. The immense pressure reaches its breaking point, and the crown suddenly explodes into countless fragments. Gwen stares in disbelief as the shattered pieces scatter, and a strange, eerie, purple essence begins to emerge from the swirling energy. A mysterious humanoid form starts to materialize. Vivi frowns, realizing something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. The glowing purple being towers over them, and Bao identifies it as a manifestation of pure chi, taking human form. He wonders if this strange entity had been sealed within the crown, all along, sensing an unsettling, ancient presence. Vivi suddenly screams for Bao to flee, her voice filled with sheer panic. The humanoid chi lashes out violently, its limbs expanding like monstrous tendrils. As Bao braces himself, utterly shocked, he quickly realizes the entity is heading straight for the chi core of their enemy, determined to stop it. Bao rushes forward, vowing to reach the core before the creature does. The swirling mass of energy wraps around him, catching him mid-charge as he struggles to break free. The entity looms before him with a fierce, chilling glare. Wen feels the shockwave from afar, awed by the raw energy. Vivi senses something is terribly off, realizing Bao's chi is being devoured by the creature. Entangled in its grasp, Bao feels his strength drain. As the humanoid chi begins absorbing his very essence, the entity gathers immense orbs of energy, mirroring a devastating technique once used by the Rose King. Bao starts losing all control of his body. The monstrous energy wave expands and strikes with overwhelming force. Vivi realizes in utter horror that the humanoid chi has absorbed the four-eyed demon's full attack and redirected it straight into Bao. She realizes compressing so much chi inside a single body will cause him to detonate. As Bao screams in agony, he recognizes this surge of power, this immense strength. It's equivalent to the 6th tier of the incarnation phase. He realizes the entity is forcefully amplifying his cultivation, pushing it to an even higher level. For one catastrophic release, the sudden outburst of chi begins tearing through him, the energy far exceeding what his body can endure. The humanoid drains Bao's life force, using it as fuel to chase the chi center with terrifying speed. Vivi realizes the grave danger, warning that Bao's body won't survive if this control continues. Gwen panics, demanding to know if there's any way to help him escape this possession. Lance admits helplessly that they can't intervene. While the battle rages in midair, Gale steps forward, offering to use his chi, hoping to contribute to the fight. The group realizes they've each gained traces of chi from Bao before, and wonders if it could now aid him. Vivi urges them to have faith in Bao and entrust everything to her. As she begins channeling power, to their shock, her body expands with overwhelming energy. Bao turns to her. As Vivi faces the humanoid, struggling to maintain control, She warns Bao to escape as her strength begins to waver. Bao admits he no longer has chi and is unable to move. Now, Vivi points toward a distant glow, revealing where the source of chi still remains. They identify it as the four-eyed demon's core, weakened after his last attack and ripe for assault. Determined, he sets his sights on seizing the core to fuel his return to his world and avenge his fallen sect. With his hand outstretched, he feels victory close at hand, ready to uncover the truth behind everything that happened. Suddenly, his armor begins to crumble, as the strain of his chi overload causes it to disintegrate. Around him, Vivi struggles to maintain control, warning Bao to be careful. The humanoid lashes out as it grabs hold of Bao. The humanoid reaches the four-eyed demon first and devours its core. Bao realizes the creature's intent. It's trying to devour the entire chi core of the enemy. Bao is thrown back as he calls out to Vivi in panic. The humanoid's body crashes to the ground with massive force. Gale wonders if it's truly the same creature they encountered just now. In an instant, the battlefield begins to collapse under the pressure. As purple tendrils tear through the ground, Lance's strength suddenly begins to falter, as he realizes something is terribly wrong. Bao senses the immediate danger. He screams for everyone to flee, before the burgeoning power consumes them all. Yet, the energy surges violently, pulling one of their knights into its terrifying grasp. Before anyone can react, Bao murmurs, "The process has begun." They watch in utter horror, as the warrior merges with the core, consuming everything nearby. Bao desperately screams at him to cease, admitting his struggle to suppress the volatile power, hoping to buy precious time for the others to flee. Suddenly, Lance heroically rushes in to help, flatly refusing to abandon his comrade. Bao screams at him to escape, but Lance stands firm, choosing to fight by his side until the bitter end. Lance boldly declares, "A true knight never flees," striking with unwavering, fierce resolve. His defiance is met with a violent surge, as he's instantly engulfed by the creature's overwhelming power. The battlefield falls silent before Bao screams his name in utter disbelief. Gwen and Gale bear witness to the explosion, their faces frozen in pure shock and horror. The monstrous figure erupts once more. Bao desperately calls out to his remaining comrades, fearing for their safety, fueled by burning rage. He charges the creature, ordering it to halt its rampage. The sheer force of the blast shatters his armor. He crashes to the ground, calling out to the humanoid, demanding its attention once again. A swirling vortex forms, pulling everyone towards it. Carl shouts for everyone to protect Gwen, just as he shoves her away to sacrifice his own body. Gwen cries out to Carl in utter shock, as his form begins to unravel before her very eyes. She then faces the monstrous figure directly, her grip on her sword tightening with fierce resolve. A mix of fear and resolve flashes across her face, as she defiantly raises her weapon for battle. But before she can even make a move, the blade shatters before her, as Bao cries out to her in desperation, terrified by the impending doom. Gwen turns toward him for a fleeting moment, her eyes welling up with tears. A surge of brilliant golden light bursts from her armor, as she's violently struck by the creature's power. Bao freezes, gripped by pure horror, his body trembling uncontrollably as he watches the scene unfold. Bao slams his fists against the ground in absolute fury. He curses his helplessness as old wounds violently resurface. He roars, demanding his enemy return and face him in battle. The entity responds with a chilling, sinister grin. Its voice echoes the very name of Bao's sect. Dark energy spirals violently as the creature descends upon Bao, forcing Bao to brace against its furious assault. It rages, blaming Bao's sect for its endless torment, declaring its burning hatred and thirst for vengeance. Vivi suddenly appears, materializing between them, vowing she absolutely will not allow it to happen. Bao calls out to her, utterly consumed by disbelief. She urges him, "You must keep fighting," reminding him that his critical mission is far from over. Her divine glow intensifies, as she assures him that hope still burns bright for their cause. With brilliant divine light surrounding her, she invokes an ancient, profound power of reincarnation. Bao suddenly regains consciousness. Confused, he finds himself disoriented in a strange place. As his blurry surroundings finally come into focus, he gazes upon a vast, majestic temple engulfed in divine flames. This is the fabled ninth heaven. Vivi emerges, introducing herself as the first sect master and founder of his clan. She explains the four-eyed demon severed people's very chi from their bodies, trapping them in a desolate limbo between life and death. Their life essence remains bound, but with enough damage, it can be broken, setting them free. Hope blossoms brightly in Bao's eyes, as he realizes Gwen and the others can still be revived. Back in the present, he awakens, realizing just how brief the reincarnation truly was. He rises to witness just how drastically the world has changed. The very land now saturated with malevolent ki. He reflects on the profound truth of Vivi's divine identity and the heartbreaking fate of his fallen allies. With newfound, burning resolve, he steels himself to defeat the humanoid chi and reclaim everything that was lost. He spots the legendary Excalibur from afar. Vivi suddenly appears right beside him, warning that even the most potent magical weapons can deteriorate from excessive use. She explains her prolonged imprisonment within the sword caused her current deteriorated state, and its damage has finally unleashed her true form. Annoyed, she scolds the modern disciples of their sect for being far weaker than those of her own era. She then stands tall, declaring she will now teach Bao a powerful technique. The technique allows one to draw and condense ki, even amidst overwhelming corruption and chaos. Before they can proceed further, an army of cursed armors suddenly emerges. Charging toward them, Vivi instantly multiplies into countless clones. Each clone bursts forth, ready to confront the relentless enemies. Bao watches in awe, then moves quickly to assist her. He's realizing the true, immense scale of her power. She unleashes her clones, throwing them against the cursed armors, vowing to demonstrate the raw might of the first sect master. Suddenly, a massive creature lunges forward, but Vivi counters with a swift, powerful strike, a golden strike that brilliantly lights up the encroaching darkness. Bao calls out to her, a hint of worry in his voice. Vivi then launches multiple strikes, one after another, remarking that this power is weak compared to her true strength. She then struggles as her energy transmission visibly slows down, while she warns that without enough ki to fully restore the sacred sword, it cannot be wielded effectively in a battle like this. Suddenly, a blinding light erupts from the ground, as she senses a powerful new presence forming deep beneath them. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes the rising, incredible, golden energy may be something truly extraordinary. Bao is suddenly enveloped in radiant, fiery flames, making Vivi realize he's exhibiting chi from the ninth heaven itself. He recalls how, during their previous perilous journey, he had attempted to grasp the lingering chi of his disciples, and miraculously managed to maintain a faint connection. Now, that crucial link awakens within him, merging the disciples' chi with his own, as their energies powerfully flow into him. Drawing the sword, he gathers all that divine energy within it, commanding it to condense rapidly within his blade for the coming strike. Bao then swings his radiant, glowing sword, splitting clean through the massive cursed armor. He feels the surge of new power flowing powerfully through him, noting how effortlessly he can now control this incredible power. More cursed armors immediately surge toward him, prompting a swift warning from Vivi to stay incredibly alert. She then notices other cursed armors surprisingly assisting Bao. Bao explains this power isn't from the sword's innate ability, but from the lingering spirits of his loyal disciples. He reveals these disciples exist as pure chi energy, each with a faint, enduring consciousness, bound to him through their unbreakable spiritual connection. Later, they arrive at a towering, ominous structure, pulsing with a dark energy that wasn't present before. They sense a strange, unsettling chi emanating from its very top, realizing their allies' energy has been cruelly trapped there, along with the enemy directly responsible for it. Fired up and determined, Bao grips his sword tightly and commands them to ascend toward the source. Meanwhile, Gwen regains consciousness within a chilling, dark void, recalling how a surge of evil ki brutally knocked her out. Vivi's eyes shoot open as Gwen discovers her body has transformed once more. She then finds herself soaring high above an unfamiliar, strange land. The enemy pulls off her mask, sensing a powerful presence approaching rapidly. The very ground quakes as an unknown entity draws closer to the tower. Carl and Gwen can only wonder if this new arrival is an ally. A chilling smirk spreads across the enemy's face. She warns that whoever dares approach should be pitied, not welcomed with open arms. Her aura violently flares as she lets loose a furious, echoing outburst, demanding absolute silence from these persistent intruders. Suddenly, dark, sinister tendrils surge forth from the tower, lashing out wildly and directly at Bao. He quickly braces himself, ready for impact, standing firm before a grotesque, writhing mass of eyes and shadows. It's a true abomination, pulsing with raw, dark, malicious energy. The five elemental forces clash fiercely. Lightning, fire, water, earth, and swamp intertwine in chaotic, unpredictable balance. Their combined energies begin to form a complex pattern, creating a powerful and intricate magical array. A sinister hissing fills the air as the monstrous figure presses on, proving it still possesses an alarming amount of life force. Bao channels his raw energy directly through his sacred sword, summoning immense power for a truly decisive strike. He quickly discerns that the creature holds the chi of the four-eyed demon, alongside the brute strength of countless souls it has absorbed. Recognizing the familiar, powerful flow of fire and lightning, chi, he realizes these are the lingering remnants of Gale and Lance. He calls upon their very essence, urging them to manifest once more, reconstructing their forms from pure chi, transforming it into solid reality. Just like that, Gale and Lance materialize beside him, back in their physical forms. They're confused, but instinctively ready for battle. Bao greets them with a profound sense of relief, quickly noting their astonishing recovery, but instantly urging them to concentrate on the immediate fight. He instructs them to recall only what they faced just before, right before they lost consciousness, as that knowledge is precisely all they need right now. The two valiant knights instantly recall the battle vividly, recognizing the insidious purple enemy who tried to destroy them, and immediately swearing furious vengeance. Bao commends their sharp memory, and declares the battle far from over, as they prepare to confront the enemy standing ahead. The knights immediately recognize the small, familiar figure, and eagerly call out to Gwen with clear relief. She and Vivi excitedly identify them, too, approaching swiftly from the ground below. Just then, the enemy emerges right before them, cloaked in an aura of energy that radiates immense, dark power. Lance, confused, mistakes the figure for Gwen, but Bao quickly clarifies that it is not Gwen, but the four-eyed demon. The entity's body twists and contorts grotesquely, revealing a grotesque multitude of eyes. It reforms itself, fueled by the stolen chi. Bao orders his team to strike and reclaim the chi, ripped from their fallen comrades. The enemy's gaze turns ice-cold, as dark energy surges around its upraised arm. The battle reignites as her power erupts outward, lashing out at Bao and the others with ferocious speed. This monstrous energy contorts the very structure around them, morphing even the stone stairs into cursed armor. Bao bolts from the chaos as monstrous tentacles surge upward, revealing the desolate continent stretching out below. They realize the land itself has withered away, because the enemy drained all its chi, leaving it lifeless. The enemy lunges with violent intent, forcing the knights to brace for the devastating impact. Bao takes point on the defense, reconstructing a massive structure mid-air to counter. With a swift command, Bao cues his comrades for the next move, and they leap into action. Gale and Lance strike in perfect unison, lunging straight for the creature's armored hide. The woman materializes before the fallen tentacle, her gaze sharpening with an eerie, unsettling calm. The knights close in, weapons drawn, their combined power aimed directly at her. Bao's voice cuts through, rallying them to finish the fight. Suddenly, the three warriors find themselves ensnared by her. The corrupted chi coils tightly around their bodies, burning through armor and flesh, as they struggle against its pull. A sudden burst of light appears as Vivi calls upon her power, commanding the surrounding chi to converge. The four-eyed demon recognizes the familiar aura, her expression twisting in pure rage and disbelief. She screams the name of her sect, her fury shaking the entire battlefield. Vivi responds with an unwavering calm, acknowledging the enemy still remembers her after all this time. The knights notice the dark suppression weakening, and seize a chance to strike back. Vivi urges them to seize this opportunity, and Bao charges forward. Without hesitation, Bao warns them to target the creature's head, revealing it as the core. The monstrous form looms over them again, its distorted body crackling with energy. The knights recognize the figure, the cursed armor from before, now horrifyingly twisted, with Gwen's face. The creature positions itself to block their path, preventing them from advancing toward the four-eyed demon. The Bao reassures them as he channels his power. Energy surges around him, forming a colossal blade of light. He unleashes a mighty area attack, striking with overwhelming force that shakes the entire tower. Just as they believe victory is near, Vivi senses something is wrong and quickly halts their celebration. The demon still stands, proving the core of its power remains intact. Gale, look ahead in confusion. Before them a massive surge of power rises, swirling like a living storm before them. Bo watches closely, realizing with dread that what they see may be the creature's true core. Finally emerging, Gale questions if the enemy still possesses untapped power. The swirling mass of energy takes shape, revealing a gigantic, ominous eye staring down at them. Bao examines the massive vortex of energy, realizing the entire continent's chi is being absorbed. The vortex grows unstable, threatening to devour everything nearby. Including him, the form glares down as Bao braces himself. From the chaos emerges the demon's figure, her voice cutting through the noise. As she complains about the disturbance, the swirling energy fuses with her body, completely merging into a terrifying new form. Bao struggles to stay upright as the shockwave hits, while his allies rush to his side in alarm. Vivi appears and shouts his name, shocked to see what's unfolding before her eyes. She warns Bao not to engage directly, since the demon is too powerful from all the chi she's absorbed. Vivi studies herself, declaring that if they can manipulate the chi the demon relies on, they might be able to control her movements as well. Bao nods in agreement. He grasps his sword, understanding the role he must play. As the successor of the first sect master, he realizes the entity's strength is drawn from the continent's living chi, and devises a plan to reclaim control through the sword. Channeling energy from every life form, Bao envisions the balance of creation itself. With clarity, he locates the scattered chi signatures of his allies, and begins gathering their power. He instructs everyone to unite, forming a single ring of chi that links their strength together. Their energies synchronize, as Bao leads them in a collective surge against the consuming force. Light burst forth as he sends the ring towards the demon. The others rally. They channel their power as the dark energy begins to falter. The demon thrashes in agony. Her screams echo as Bao's light overwhelms her corruption. Standing firm, Bao commands her submission, demanding she yield to his restored power. The air itself distorts, as waves of energy violently spiral between Bao and the demon. She glares at him, a spark of recognition in her eyes, realizing he's a master from Vivi's sect. Her tone shifts to pure malice, as she declares that Gwen's life is now bound to his power. She warns that every bit of chi Bao wields will come at the cost of another's life. Consumed by fury, she rants about balance and destruction, vowing to steal chi from every corner of existence. Her rage swells as she screams that when all chi is gone, the world itself will perish. Bao questions her chilling revelation, unable to comprehend the sheer scale of her claim. She shows him the devastating cost of his actions, where entire forests are fading away, and countless lives extinguished by his very energy. Bao argues back, defiant, insisting the damage is limited and necessary to fight her. Vivi shouts from behind, a desperate warning, warning him not to let her words disrupt his focus, or she'll begin suppressing his strength. Bao steadies himself, his expression tense. From afar, Gwen senses danger and realizes Bao is struggling. She and Carl observe how overwhelming the enemy's chi has become, and decide to intervene, despite the immense risk. Gwen summons her courage, glowing brightly, preparing to charge into battle. She darts forward with fierce resolve, but is immediately struck mid-air by a powerful blast. The demon suddenly cries out, feeling an unexpected sting of pain. Bao and the others notice her sudden falter, unsure what just happened. Carl and Gwen, however, deduce that a strange link has formed between Gwen and the demon. They realize that both now share a connection. Pain or death for one will be mirrored in the other, accepting the grave risk. Gwen powers up once again, determined to push forward despite the danger. She realizes that hurting herself can damage the demon, and sees this as a way to aid Bao. The demon reels back as pain tears through her body. Sharing the inflicted pain, she whirls around and immediately confines Gwen. She realizes Gwen's pain directly affects her. Inside the energy field, Gwen pushes through, inflicting more self-harm. Curious, Urien questions why she would risk dying for Bao's sake, and Gwen argues that he's the true king. Urien counters, arguing that Bao, a cursed armor from another world, cannot truly be trusted. He reminds her of the Pope's prophecy, that Bao's arrival would bring about the death of their continent. Unfazed, Gwen dismisses the accusation and declares her faith in Bao's purpose, calling Roth a brainwashed disciple of the demon. This time, Gwen launches herself against Roth, deciding to exploit Roth's link to the same evil chi. Roth accepts that he will soon burn out, taking Gwen down with him. Despite knowing the cost, Gwen accepts it with conviction, believing in Bao's victory. Urien concedes to the mutual destruction, and readies his mithril for the final exchange. Both drop forcefully to the ground. As Gwen writhes in agony, she endures the pain, realizing the connection truly harms both of them. At once, the demon screams as the damage reflects back, tearing through her corrupted form. Bao watches in confusion as her chi suddenly destabilizes mid-battle. Seeing an opening, he seizes the moment and charges forward to strike with full power. Gwen watches as Bao unleashes a fierce counterattack, and slowly gains ground. A wisp of lingering chi forms, leaving Gwen confused and concerned if it belongs to the fallen Urien. Back then, the Pope had instructed Urien to watch the demon and act. If things went terribly wrong, the Pope warns Urien of the pain and sacrifice required to endure such power, while remaining conscious, questioning if he can withstand it. Urien, resolute and unshaken, confidently accepts the burden as he dons his armor. Back in the present, the memory leaves Gwen stunned. A lingering question arises about Gwen's faith in Bao, and the true extent of his power. With determination shining in her eyes, she declares her trust in Bao's strength. Once more, as the battle intensifies, her faith fuels Bao's charge against the demon. Somewhere else, Vivi stands tall, her gaze filled with purpose, as the tide of battle turns once more. Win recalls the warning that Bao's arrival might spell ruin for her entire continent. Her faith in him tested, she hesitates for a moment, but then, she reaffirms her unwavering belief, trusting what she's witnessed, rather than succumbing to fear. Meanwhile, Bao fights on with relentless, burning determination. The fierce clash between Bao and the demon only intensifies, as they quickly reposition for their next moves. Seeing his powerful strikes finally take their toll, Bao's confidence swells. The demon howls as radiant energy erupts from it. Vivi quickly realizes it's channeling everyone's ki, straight toward Bao. In response, Bao swiftly gathers their combined chi, summoning a blinding surge of pure energy, to reconstruct their fallen allies from the void. The knights awaken, eyes wide with utter disbelief, realizing they've returned from the very brink of death. Old comrades reunite, embracing with overwhelming joy and astonishment, noticing their slightly altered forms after being miraculously revived. As the group adjusts to their newly restored bodies, newcomers from beyond their world observe in utter confusion, questioning the glowing figures now surrounding Bao. Bao studies the group, telling them firmly to focus on the present battle, assuring them that explanations will come later. The demon writhes in agony as its body begins to distort and unravel, its stolen energy violently tearing itself apart from within. A soft golden light surrounds Gwen. As Bao recognizes her, Qi has merged directly into his energy flow. Gwen awakens, calling out to Bao, her eyes filled with gratitude and concern. Bao explains that, even amidst all the chaos, he sensed her pure energy guiding him, crediting her for helping him save everyone. Her mind flashes back to the pivotal moment. She was asked if she truly believed in Bao. Smiling softly, Gwen assures him that she's fine, her faith unwavering, despite her clear exhaustion. The demon roars furiously, a sound of pure rage, its voice echoing menacingly through the void, as it declares the other's presence an unbearable noise. Its chi spirals wildly out of control, consumed by sheer hatred and chaos. Its fury grows, turning the entire space into a swirling vortex of destruction. As it screams, embodying wrath and impending ruin, everyone stares in shock as a massive surge of corrupted energy forms, recognizing it as the same evil ki once created by the Rose King, but far, far more powerful. Vivi gasps that if this unstable energy erupts, it could engulf the entire continent in absolute destruction. The knights tremble as they reluctantly acknowledge, this attack surpasses even the one that destroyed the ninth heaven, their morale faltering under the crushing weight of hopelessness. Bao steps forward, insisting that this time is different, since the enemy's behavior now reveals a new weakness never seen before. Standing tall before both converging armies, Bao braces himself to face the brewing storm. Flanked by warriors from both realms, he implores them to remember their shared anguish, the homes, lives, and hope lost, uniting them in this pivotal moment. With burning resolve, he urges them to forge their pain into power and unleash it upon the enemy threatening their very existence. Soldiers from both worlds surge forward, answering his impassioned call, their spirits reignited, blazing with renewed purpose. Bao raises his mighty blade high, commanding all to ready their swords for the ultimate stand. His powerful cry reverberates across the battlefield as both worlds rally. Gwen, too, raises her sword high, rallying everyone to unite their strength. Vivi, with fierce resolve, leads her sex spirits. Their voices merge, echoing into a single, thunderous cry. As soldiers and spirits alike raise their blades in perfect unison, Bao commands the swift activation of their sacred formation, unleashing a secret technique as he spearheads the charge. The army surges forward, swiftly surrounding their enraged enemy, to prevent her from unleashing the catastrophic, unstable Black Sphere. But their foe counters with a dark surprise, summoning an army of cursed, shadowy armors to block their advance. The knights charge onward, fearless and unwavering, as Bao fiercely rallies them to hold their formation. The demon screams, consumed by pure madness, her form racked with unbridled fury and despair, demanding to end this chaos with her own hands. She unleashes yet another devastating surge of dark energy, her voice an ominous echo throughout the void, as she commands silence from all who dare defy her. Vivi urgently warns the group, avoid all direct contact, realizing the enemy absorbs their very chi to sustain her power, trapping them between utter exhaustion and looming catastrophe. Bao studies his stance, a grim realization dawning, time is running out. He begins to summon a powerful, concentrated surge of chi, a daring new plan rapidly forming within his mind. His potent energy instantly connects with every ally, establishing an intricate network of communication through qi. The soldiers react in stunned awe as Bao's voice echoes inside their minds, revealing that their only path to victory demands absolute unity. Through this qi link, Bao transmits the intricate method to everyone, ensuring each warrior grasps the plan without a single spoken word. With burning, renewed determination, Gwen rallies the troops, fiercely declaring her unwavering faith in Bao, as the others eagerly prepare to follow his every command. Bao silently acknowledges their trust, then signals the final charge. As the very air trembles, Bao faces the monstrous entity head-on, marking the explosive start of their decisive battle. The demon reacts with a violent, earth-shattering roar, unleashing a massive wave of dark energy. As the soldiers steel themselves for the impending clash, Vivi steps forward, declaring the beginning of their coordinated assault. Using a secret technique, she channels divine energy through her army. They successfully suppress the surging evil qi, holding it back just long enough to regroup. The Knights of the Continent step forward, vowing to confront their long-standing foes. Against the cursed armors, Gwen leads the charge with fierce determination, rallying her troops to push forward without hesitation. Bao steadies himself as Gwen promises to clear the path. The demon begins to lose control, her body trembling as she lets out a pained cry. She erupts in fury, unleashing a monstrous wave of energy. As she demands Bao not to close in, the force of her attack tears through the air. Lance and Gale charge straight into the heart of the storm, and confront her head-on. The demon's expression twists with terror and rage. As the energy begins to recoil against her, she lashes out with her monstrous tendrils, forcing the two knights to leap through the air to evade. They regain their footing, hovering above the monster. The demon's enraged glare meets Bao's calm determination. As he channels his energy, in an instant, Bao charges forward and brings his blade down, cleaving through the demon. Bao observes his attack hitting perfectly in the center. Suddenly, Bao jolts as a force drives him backward. The force of the impact drives her backward, as energy bursts outward from the wound. To their shock, the demon's qi surges back, rapidly healing her grievous wound almost instantly. With fury in her eyes, she declares the start of a forbidden technique, summoning immense power through her body. Dark energy consumes the battlefield as she activates her devastating skill, collapsing and reshaping the world into pure chaos. Bao steadies himself as dark energy surges violently around him. The battlefield warps, as monstrous, cursed armors rise from the ground, leaving everyone stunned, despite the chaos. Bao reflects on the efforts of his allies, and his own failure to finish the fight. He refuses to retreat, and lifts his blade with renewed determination. The demon screams in agony, demanding to know why he still resists. He pauses for a moment, but his allies shout his name, and remind him of the faith they've placed in him, as the true king and destined savior. Bao proclaims himself the most formidable qi wielder in all history. Even as his body shows signs of faltering, he vows to blaze the brightest on this very battlefield. With a furious charge, he swears to obliterate the darkness itself and reclaim the light. He lunges towards the demon, steeling himself for the arduous path ahead. Win looks up in stunned shock, then shouts with all her might, cheering Bao on as light and darkness violently collide. Bao barrels against the corrupted demon, fueled by fierce resolve. The enemy writhes in agony, questioning the unbearable pain and her very purpose in this world. Her despair curdles into pure hatred, as she utterly curses all that inflicted her suffering. Enraged, she proclaims destruction as her ultimate destiny, and vows to annihilate all existence. Bao counters with a surge of divine energy, summoning the ancient secret arts to strike back. Both unleash their most devastating powers, refusing to yield despite their profound exhaustion. Bao's energy clashes with the demon's colossal power, both striking in a synchronized frenzy. Bao steadies himself amidst the spiraling chaos, as their overwhelming powers collide once more. He ignores his rapidly dwindling strength, determined to end this, no matter the ultimate cost. Bao vows to avenge the fallen ninth heavens, carrying its immense burden upon his own shoulders. The enemy erupts in a blinding fury, accusing him of ignorance regarding its true downfall. She reveals the ninth heaven's excessive qi use was its own undoing, a devastating sickness born from its very power. Her rage intensifies, as she links that very same corruption to the current world. Consumed by despair, she unleashes her full power, vowing to obliterate everything in existence. Yet, as the dust settles, she stands utterly confused, realizing her devastating attack has failed to detonate. Looking up, her eyes streaming with blackened tears, she questions why her immense power holds no effect. In that very instant, Bao strikes down with divine precision, piercing through her, now enclosed within his glowing formation. He reveals his earlier strikes secretly formed an 8-hexagram key array. This array, ancient and eternal, symbolizes the very birth of Qi from nothingness, now completely binding her within its overwhelming power. The array then shifts into a devastating void state, utterly nullifying all Qi within its expansive range, trapping both combatants inside a field of absolute emptiness. Powerless, the enemy unleashes a piercing scream. As Bao explains, she can no longer absorb the energy that sustains her very form. Readying his blade, he declares that even without Qi, his sword alone is enough to pierce her core. He strikes, proclaiming her doom, branding her the fallen four-eyed demon. She looks up, a faint smile on her lips, accepting his words, and acknowledging his supreme mastery of the void. Helplessly adrift now, she ponders what it's truly like to exist, where Qi holds no sway, and laments that if such stillness had come earlier, she might have avoided the agony of her tragic fall. Bao gazes down, solemn, telling her that while her pain was profound, her rampage through the heavens can never be forgiven. His blade, a beacon like the sun, he deals the final, separating blow, severing her from this world. He urges her spirit to rejoin the stream of Qi, wishing she will embrace a righteous path in her next life. Once the dust clears, the battlefield descends into silence. When the mist clears, Wind anxiously searches the haze for Bao. She sees him then, materializing from the fog, triumphantly laughing and claiming victory. Instantly, the soldiers erupt in cheers, raising their arms and voices, celebrating his overwhelming triumph. Yet, behind them, the demon hears the loud cheers. The echoes of their victorious words fill her mind. Suddenly, a memory resurfaces, of being told she could be the one to save the world. A mysterious woman's voice once offered her purpose, and swore that her name would be remembered by all. Now, standing before that very same woman, she grasps the cruel irony of those words. Vivi stares down at her, regret etched on her face, softly admitting how fate has intricately played its part. The demon asks if Vivi's promises to her were ever genuine. Softly, Vivi admits that everything she said was true. The demon questions whether the same honesty was shown to Bao and the others, unsure if this path is truly just. Vivi pauses, contemplating, before asserting that everyone has chosen their own path, and her belief is that her path is the right one. The demon bows her head, quietly accepting Vivi's words. Her strength diminishes as pain ripples through her body again. Her eyes flutter shut. As the world around her slowly fades into stillness, Vivi stares down at her, with calm, absolute finality, urging her to rest, then offering her last farewell. As the demon fades, Vivi addresses her as the Qi spirit of ninth heavens. Time marches on, and the ruins continue to smolder under the night sky. Bao stands before a truly massive array, summoning a dial to restore balance. With a powerful command, he channels the sword in the stone to draw on the final key. From the fallen demon, he converts her lingering evil key into neutral energy, ensuring the continent will no longer be corrupted. The cursed armors begin to crumble. As the dark Qi sustaining them fades away, Bao declares that the cursed armor calamity has finally ended. The warriors watch in disbelief before erupting into cheers, overwhelmed by relief and joy. The army celebrates their survival, shouting praises for Bao, as hope returns to the land. Quinn looks up with teary eyes, realizing the calamity has truly ended at last. Yet, as Bao reflects on their victory, he laments that such peace couldn't reach the ninth heavens. He turns to Vivi, bringing up a question he's been meaning to ask, about the ninth heavens. Before he can continue, she interrupts and tells him to see something first. She projects an image, showing the Hall of Camelot, revealing it shimmering in golden light. She explains, further, that the brightness of this place reflects his Qi, and when it shines like the morning sky, it means he has enough to perform the ancient art of transmigration. She tells him that after absorbing the demon's power, his Qi has reached its peak, allowing him to use the technique freely. She smiles warmly, congratulating him for finally achieving his goal. Bao freezes in disbelief, his expression turning blank beneath his helmet. Overjoyed, he announces that his people can now return to the ninth heavens and rebuild their realm in peace. As the sky clears, Bao realizes it's time to say farewell to those who remain behind. Gwen looks up in surprise, unsure of what he truly means. Bao finally tells her the truth, revealing that he came from another world, and that his mission in this realm is complete. Gwen looks up with disbelief, thinking Bao's words must be a joke. Her expression softens into worry as she realizes he truly intends to leave. She protests, reminding him of their promise to fight side by side, but Bao responds with a light-hearted tone, declaring it's time to move on. He promises to return one day, eager to reunite with everyone, and offering her help whenever it's needed. Instead, Bao expresses his profound gratitude, thanking them all for their valiant efforts and steadfast companionship. The valiant knights and Gwen gather closely around him, insisting he is the true hero, deserving their thanks for saving them all. Vivi confirms that all preparations are now complete, and the powerful artifact they possess now hums with the energy needed for his next grand journey. Gwen clenches her fists, her resolve burning bright, vowing to one day reach Bao's world through her own surging strength. Bao laughs warmly, encouraging her to keep pushing her training. As he prepares to depart, Vivi smiles gently, agreeing that their long, arduous battle has finally reached its end. Bao channels his immense energy into the massive yin-yang formation, surrounding himself in brilliant light as it dramatically activates. Gwen looks on in confusion as dark, viscous energy begins to swirl and gather ominously in the air. The ominous black mass rapidly expands, shocking everyone as they demand to know what these strange entities are. Bao turns in sudden alarm, sensing the strange disturbance spreading from their location. He realizes with absolute horror that the energy resembles evil, qi, and questions how it could still exist after their formidable enemy's defeat. A chilling, undeniable familiarity suddenly sets in. As Bao recognizes the terrifying sensation from before, he wonders if his own use of the technique is somehow disrupting the balance, and vows to stop it before it's tragically too late. Gwen calls out for urgent answers. Vivi, however, calmly orders him to proceed with the ritual. Despite his growing concerns, she insists that he must continue the technique, while he offers to adjust the unstable flow of qi himself. Suddenly, Vivi expresses her profound disappointment in Bao. She then tells him that Bao's mere return will not be enough to save the ninth heavens. She explains that the world's qi has been critically depleted due to the demon's rampage, and without enough vital energy, utter destruction cannot be avoided. Bao furiously questions her motives, demanding to know why she made him perform the arduous reincarnation ritual. If the world was truly doomed, she calmly answers that it is the only possible way to save the ninth heavens. She describes how life energy can restore itself when damage is minor, but once it surpasses its natural limits, survival demands consuming other life forces entirely. She then reveals that the only true way to restore the ninth heavens is to draw forth a new qi from another world. The true nature of her plan dramatically unfolds. A scheme to rebuild a dying realm, fueled by another's life force. Horrified, Bao realizes saving the ninth heavens means sacrificing their world. Gwen and the others overhear everything, reacting in utter disbelief. They struggle to accept their world might be destroyed, all for another's salvation. Vivi blocks Gwen's path, cutting her off from Bao as the ritual rages on. Gwen shouts, completely incredulous, demanding clarification on what she just heard. Vivi explains coldly that their continent's qi is already fading, and using its remaining life force to sustain another world is the lesser of two evils. The knights erupt in outrage. They refuse to accept their world should be the one sacrificed. Vivi responds, utterly emotionless, stating they lack the power to control qi, and thus, have no choice. Bao falls silent, struck by the crushing weight of the revelation, and the impossible choice laid before him. Gwen and the others try to break through, pleading for Bao to hear them out, while Vivi insists the ritual must continue. When Bao confronts her in outrage, she lashes back, asserting her authority as his predecessor, and forcefully strikes him down. She reminds him sternly that this sacrifice is the only path to save the ninth heavens, and that he once swore this mission as his very destiny. Bao, burning with renewed determination, declares that the people of this continent are not part of this burden. Long ago, in the glorious ninth heavens, Vivi first uncovered the essence of qi. People marvel as the power manifests, animating objects and nature itself in wondrous motion. Vivi demonstrates the full potential of the qi techniques, foretelling a transformation that will reshape their very world. At only 11 years old, she invents the qi-wielding technique and begins training others, forming the foundation of the ninth heaven's future. She gathers her disciples, declaring the birth of her new sect, uniting all those capable of mastering qi. By 13, she becomes the first sect master, and over the next decade, qi-wielding spreads, ushering in prosperity and advancement across all realms. The ninth heavens enters an age of unprecedented enlightenment, but signs of decay soon appear. As parts of the world begin to wither unnaturally, Vivi studies this horrifying phenomenon, realizing the qi-wielding technique drains the world's very life force, ultimately spiraling into chaos and death. She laments the technique's pervasive, destructive use, acknowledging it's now an unstoppable force, yet fearing constant depletion will spell their doom. Desperate for answers, she spends years searching fruitlessly, until one fateful day, she stumbles upon a potential breakthrough, hidden deep within the very flow of chi. She witnesses a radiant entity coalesce within the chi flow, taking on the form of a childlike figure, pure energy incarnate. The being moves with ethereal innocence and grace, its every motion releasing gentle waves of chi. She realizes that, unlike ordinary chi, this one's essence neither fades nor depletes, making it a phenomenon that could sustain the world's delicate balance. Understanding its immense potential, Vivi gently reaches out, inviting the childlike chi to follow. Vivi finally discovers a path to restoring balance. She begins to suspect that this glowing, childlike being might be the legendary chi spirit, said to dwell within all living things. Driven by curiosity, she approaches and tests if the entity can understand her words, or control the very flow of chi. In response, the spirit unleashes a magnificent surge of golden chi. Vivi observes in awe, as the world's vital essence remains stable, despite such a vast release of energy. Realizing this entity's presence could sustain their entire realm, the spirit, filled with pure innocence, asks about revealing herself to the world. Eager to understand its true purpose, Vivi activates a sacred technique, calling down heavenly light, to reveal the spirit's true power to all creation. The spirit feels her energy spreading across vast distances, sensing her chi travel to far-off lands. Vivi explains she channeled the spirit's energy, through chi wielding to bring renewal and aid to their suffering world. The spirit smiles as she feels life return to the land, crops thriving, and creatures healing once more, realizing for the very first time that her existence can bring joy and hope to countless others. Vivi and the spirit both resolve to continue their mission, side by side, to restore the world's balance. Over the years that follow, Vivi channels the spirit's boundless energy, slowly healing the realm, eventually naming her Lily. Exhaustion begins to show as Lily struggles to maintain her strength, breathing heavily under the strain of sustaining the entire world. Vivi recalls a distant mountain, where an old man's orchard miraculously thrives. It's only Lily's chi, stabilizing the very ground as it crumbles. Knowing countless lives depend solely on Lily's energy, Vivi gently pleads with her to just hold on a little longer, until their world can finally begin to heal itself. Lily, with a surge of will, gathers her remaining strength, vowing to push on, despite her crushing exhaustion. Moved by Lily's immense devotion, Vivi promises that once their task is done, she will find a way to grant Lily a true human form. Lily's eyes flicker with a spark of hope, as she confesses her fervent desire to live as a human and experience life. Yet, despite their tireless, desperate efforts, the depletion of chi proves utterly overwhelming, and darkness aggressively begins to reclaim their world, as life itself, piece by agonizing piece, starts to fade away. The new version of Vivi's technique aggressively drains Lily's strength faster, causing her to spend more time unconscious and less time awake. A mysterious voice urgently warns Lily to halt what she's doing, before it's too late. Vivi listens, her ears keenly attuned, as Lily confirms hearing voices that are not of this world. A cold realization dawns on Vivi, as she recognizes these voices as signals from beyond their very realm. Determined to uncover the full, unsettling truth, she relentlessly continues studying Lily, and learns that the chi flowing through Lily does not originate within their own world. Recalling her very first experiment with chi wielding, she realizes she had unknowingly connected to far higher worlds, and spread her own energy across multiple planes of existence. Deep within the endless stream of chi, Vivi becomes one with the universal flow, and sees immense clusters of raw energy in the distant void, realizing these are vital bridges that connect countless different worlds. All realms, it seems, are intricately linked by this river of chi, and only Lily possesses the unique gift to sense and draw chi from realms far, far beyond her own world. A chilling warning arises that taking chi from another world means, quite literally, taking life from those who inhabit it. The weight of this thought deeply unsettles Vivi, who agonizingly wonders how much damage Lily's power has already caused. She ruthlessly silences her burgeoning conscience, convincing herself that such a sacrifice is truly necessary to save her own dying world. She decides Lily must never know the devastating truth behind her power, but as Lily relentlessly continues using it, her already fragile condition worsens rapidly. Lily pleads for help, begging for a body to stabilize her, as she feels her very essence fading away. Vivi holds her close and asks to borrow her power one last time. With an agonizingly heavy heart, she reflects that her relentless pursuit of this art had sealed her fate long ago, forcing her onto a path of no return. She desperately pleads with Lily to use her power just one last time, to stabilize the very chi of the ninth heavens. She assures Lily that once this ordeal is finished, she will craft her a human body. With a mix of hesitation and fierce resolve, Lily agrees to unleash her power one final time. With a surge, she activates the forbidden art, drawing immense power from a world beyond. Horrified, Lily senses countless lives fading away. She realizes her power is devouring entire worlds. She screams out in pure disbelief, unable to bear witness to the destruction she's unleashed, while Vivi desperately begs her to look away. The flow of energy spirals wildly out of control, creating a massive, tearing rift. That opens a direct passage to the river of Ki. The surge becomes far too much for Lily to withstand. As she screams in agony, her very form caught in the violent current, Vivi watches in sheer terror as Lily is pulled toward the glowing river. The current expands even further, and before she can even react, Vivi realizes she, too, is being dragged into the relentless river. The destructive surge annihilated countless lives, leaving the ninth heavens utterly in ruin, while Vivi vanished without a single trace. Floating adrift in a vast void, she regains consciousness and realizes, miraculously, she's still alive, but her body is now composed entirely of chi. Reflecting in utter disbelief, she understands that Lily's power had catastrophically spiraled out of control. That very current carried her across dimensions, pulling her spirit into an unknown, alien world. Adrift, in a chaotic swirl of energy, she searches desperately, frantically, for Lily. Meanwhile, deep within the abyss, Lily awakens, surrounded by the tormented souls of the dead. When the heavenly array catastrophically failed, the chi Lily absorbed became cruelly trapped within her body, with that trapped energy twisted into a corrupted, dark chi, an evil chi that unconsciously feeds on the lives of others. Vivi senses the overwhelming, malevolent chi inside Lily, and realizes the horrifying corruption utterly consuming her. Surrounded by vengeful, shrieking spirits, Lily breaks down as the souls curse her for their gruesome deaths. The voices of the dead accuse her of stealing their very lives. Through the cursed forbidden technique, Lily screams, begging them to stop, her sanity slipping away as their hatred pierces her very mind. The spirits taunt her, relentlessly, mercilessly, begging her to consume all chi, to finally end her pain. Lily completely snaps. Her voice, seething with rage, rejects everything. She screams that the world of chi itself deserves to vanish, for all the suffering it caused her. Vivi watches in absolute horror, realizing Lily intends to unleash the destructive power, sealed deep within her. Desperate, Vivi flies toward her, pleading for her to stop, knowing it would destroy her own realm too. She tries to intervene but is struck back violently, her form unable to control or resist the raging ki. The explosion intensifies, sending out violent shock waves. Vivi senses an unfamiliar chi in the air, realizing it's enough to suppress the unstable chi. For a brief moment, it stabilizes Lily temporarily, though Vivi wonders where this strange chi originated. Suddenly, the Pope appears before them, and questions why they ignored all warnings. She scolds them for absorbing energy not from their world, and asks if they intend to bring destruction to their world. Vivi admits her guilt, but confesses she had no control over what happened. But then, an intense concentration of chi emerges, threatening to destabilize the area again. The Pope explains, Vivi only severed the link between Lily and the destructive energy, not the energy itself. She declares the only solution left is to completely destroy the source of chaos. Vivi's eyes widen in shock, her expression tense, conflicted, and pained. She struggles to hold back her emotions. The Pope admits their power has already been stretched thin. Just to sever that connection, they both decide the only other option is to seal the force away. Instead, Vivi realizes this sealing could work like enchanting a weapon, binding chi within an item permanently. The Pope instructs her to follow, and reveals the sacred armor that once belonged to a great king. She explains it carries the blessing and aura of the first king, the only relic powerful enough to contain the destructive energy, to contain Lily's uncontrollable ki. Her mind was confined to the eternal crown, her strength bound within the sword, and her body sealed inside the armor's torso. The Pope took responsibility for guarding the crown, Vivi safeguarded the sword, and the army carried away the armor's body. Together, they concealed the truth of the seal, and focused on neutralizing the remaining evil chi, still lingering ominously in the skies. But without Lily's control, the corrupted chi condensed into a swirling black void, until it gained sentience, becoming the infamous four-eyed demon. Over time, this malevolent chi sought its own rebirth, possessing fallen warriors to reclaim its form and strength. Years passed, and Vivi quietly cultivated her power once more, occasionally sensing remnants of her chi in the ninth heavens, until one fateful day, she detected faint signs of its revival. The deep connection between both worlds caused Qi to drift freely from one to the other, thus intertwining their very fates. She theorizes that transferring all of this continent's Qi could restore the ninth heavens to life, yet doing so would utterly doom this continent. But then, the memory of Lily resurfaces, and she acknowledges with a heavy heart that it wouldn't be the first time she'd make such a sacrifice. Even burdened by overwhelming guilt, Vivi resolves to bravely move forward, believing it to be the only path left for them. She then realizes she needs a place dense with Qi and remembers the four-eyed demon, but her current weakened state prevents her from approaching it. Meanwhile, the grand plan she set into motion begins. As the 11 kings wage war against the cursed armor army, amidst the chaos, a warrior dreams of absolute invincibility, yearning for the legendary Excalibur that could grant him ultimate power. Vivi reveals that the sword bears a treacherous hidden trap, where it drains the Qi of anyone unworthy to wield its might. She muses that if one cannot endure this grueling trial, they would never survive against the demon. Watching many fail, she laments the inherent weakness of this world's people, and admits her current plan needs a drastic change. Suddenly, alarming news reaches the Pope's ears. The armor sealing Lily's body has been stolen. Elsewhere, Vivi senses a powerful, unsettling surge of Qi forming in the sky, and realizes something far, far worse is unfolding. The Pope desperately calls out Vivi's name. As she finally realizes, Vivi arrives at a desolate hill, crowned with a dark, foreboding tower, deciding it's the perfect, secluded place to continue her plan. She begins channeling the power of the sword in the stone, creating a delicate, yet potent, link to the ninth heavens. A blinding surge of golden light erupts from the tower. From the heavens, the Pope descends, immediately confronting Vivi. She accuses Vivi of trying to use forbidden, dangerous power to drain one world's very Qi to mend another. She admits she once considered such a devastating sacrifice herself, but could never bring herself to truly carry it out. The Pope admits that such a massive Qi exchange is beyond her power. Lily, brimming with determination, steps forward and declares she can handle the task instead. But just then, the portal activates, pulling in Qi from another timeline entirely, and Lily realizes it's someone descended generations later. She explains that merging the armor with the four-eyed demon will grant them control over his immense power. The Pope angrily rejects her plan, refusing to sacrifice an entire continent in exchange. As the two clash fiercely, Lily vows to stop her from interfering with her mission. The merging ritual succeeds, and the armored figure awakens, now infused with immense power. The only thing left for Vivi now was to wait. Lily confronts the Pope once again, demanding to know what she took from her. The Pope coldly reveals she removed part of Vivi's memories, so Vivi would forget her plan to destroy the continent. The cursed armors begin to close in, threatening to consume the newly awakened armor. The Pope prophesies that the armor will work with the cursed armors, and is bound to meet his destined fate. Vivi vows that no matter how long it takes, she will always find another way. She glares angrily, knowing the Pope has already spent too much power, and will soon fall into a long slumber. Soon after, the Pope suddenly regains consciousness, and a knight rushes in relief to see her awake, explaining that much time has passed, and the 11 Kings battle has already been lost. The Pope rises and strides forward, feeling the weight of wasted time pressing upon her. Standing before the sacred sword, she prepares to unleash her final measure. Witnesses outside recognize the radiant light and cry out in awe, realizing the Pope still lives and has invoked a divine decree. Her voice echoes across the land, calling on the remaining warriors to stand firm, fight with faith, and embrace the courage of true knights. When asked if she truly has a way to save their world, she quietly confirms it, internally. She admits the grim truth, that any use of the forbidden power will doom their world to destruction. The Pope acknowledges the risk and decides to draw a powerful soul, using the light of the crown, forcing him to wear it and bear its heavy burden. The plan is to unleash the contained energy in a controlled space, ensuring only a portion of the land is obliterated, rather than the entire realm. As Bao advances through, the Pope hadn't foreseen his sacrifice arriving so swiftly. She presents the eternal crown, a relic rumored to end all when donned. Both Bao and Vivi face her, their reluctance clear. The Pope falters, seized by a moment of hesitation. As the decisive moment finally arrives, Vivi rushes in, feigning concern to mask her true motives. As she supports the weakened Pope, she insists on taking care of her. Meanwhile, Gwen urges Bao to don the crown. Whispering closely, Vivi reveals she's regained the memories the Pope once stole. As Bao takes the crown, it merges his essence with that of the four-eyed demon. Vivi remarks how this is an unstoppable force of fate, intertwining both worlds. The Pope reaches forward with determination, She strikes Bao from behind, channeling the last of her power into what comes next. The Pope gives her final command. King Urien appears, called forth by the Pope for a grave purpose. She explains his role, trusting his willpower to resist the demon, and serve as the final safeguard for their world. The Pope instructs that if her plan fails, a brilliant beam must be released, to awaken the sealed consciousness within the crown. To awaken it, the wielder must destroy themselves, unleashing immense energy to stir the dormant power. Vivi identifies it as Lily's consciousness, finally revealed from within the crown. The Pope declares that Lily's spirit is reclaiming the power, bound to the demon, reigniting chaotic chi. The Pope coldly suggests that both worlds be destroyed together, leaving fate to decide which one survives. Vivi smiles confidently, assuring that the destruction she predicted will never come to pass. She reveals that her chosen warrior is far beyond mortal limits, a sect master, whose followers will unite and channel their strength to him, allowing Bao to inherit that immense power, and rebuild a new realm from sacrifice. The Pope acknowledges that if such a plan succeeds, she will have no objections left to give. Exhausted, the Pope collapses and admits that she and her allies have already done everything possible. Vivi solemnly declares that only one world can endure, and she regrets that truth. She confesses her desperate need to save the ninth heavens, even if it means choosing destruction for everything else. Back in the present, Gwen and the soldiers stare in stunned disbelief, utterly confused by the bewildering visions they've just witnessed. Gwen gazes upward, utterly stunned and overwhelmed with emotion, desperately calling out Bao's name in pure disbelief. Bao, however, remains standing in chilling silence. Vivi then looks to Bao, asking if he finally grasps the full truth. With a heavy sigh, she lowers her gaze, admitting her actions were driven by dire necessity, not by choice. She explains that, had she revealed the truth any sooner, Bao would never have forged such deep bonds with this continent, believing that detachment would make his impending burden easier to bear. With a heavy, somber tone, she tells him that, for the sake of the ninth heavens, he must now make his ultimate, final decision. Outside, the soldiers cry out in stunned disbelief, utterly horrified by this shocking revelation, and question if Bao has secretly betrayed them all this time. Panic surges through them as cursed armors suddenly reappear. A knight confronts Bao directly, face to face, demanding to know if he is behind the return of these cursed forces and the potential annihilation of their entire world. One soldier shouts for them to tear off Bao's helmet, desperate to uncover his true intentions and identity. As they rush closer, they are stunned to discover the armor is completely hollow. It moves on its own, without a body inside. Horrifying realization dawns as they scream. Bao was never human. He was one of the cursed armors all along, sparking outrage and terror. In a fit of rage and fear, another soldier accuses him of vile deceit, claiming he infiltrated them only to destroy them from within. Shock and utter disbelief twist the faces of the remaining allies, as they struggle desperately to comprehend this betrayal. The soldiers cry out in furious rage, calling Bao a deceitful monster, and accusing him of bringing another calamity. Vivi watches calmly, yet clearly puzzled by Bao's unsettling stillness, as she questions why he refuses to fight back. She reminds him that the others now clearly see him as a deadly enemy, and warns that they truly intend to kill him. Suddenly, a terrifying surge of dark energy erupts further across the battlefield. The soldiers are instantly alarmed by the powerful explosion, and trace its source to a strange, glowing stone disk now emerging. They immediately assume it's connected to the cursed armor, and rush in, weapons raised and ready, fully intent on destroying it. Bao urgently shouts for them to stop, startling everyone, as they realize he's finally intervening. He warns that his own disciples are intrinsically linked to that formation, and that destroying it would undoubtedly harm them. He demands they absolutely refrain from touching the hexagram. The opposing soldiers hesitate, bewildered, questioning his sudden, startling claim. Gwen watches as the others denounce Bao. They declare, trusting cursed armor is both a shame and a folly. The soldiers rally, bringing their blades down to shatter the hexagram. The disc cracks apart, causing his disciples' forms to erupt in agony. Bao rushes forward, fierce and unyielding, clashing with the invading force, roaring for them to stop. But the soldiers, blinded by terror, accuse him of revealing his true, monstrous nature. They pin him down, commanding others to finish breaking the seal. The energy backlash spirals wildly, becoming uncontrollable. His disciples cry out, desperate for their master. He can only watch, helpless, as chaos unfolds. Soldiers cry out to kill the cursed armors, their voices shrill, driven by primal fear and sheer desperation to survive. In silence, he reflects on the people's shared cruelty, recognizing that, deep down, they are no different from each other. He speaks calmly, stating he understands their actions, knowing they fight fiercely to protect their own world. He acknowledges that anyone would do anything, absolutely anything, to preserve what they hold most dear. With quiet, steely determination, he admits that he, too, is fighting for that very same reason. His armor glows ominously as he prepares a powerful technique. The very air trembles and shudders as he activates it, reawakening the ancient reincarnation technique. Watching from afar, Vivi realizes Bao has made his decision, and calls upon Brest to embrace its end. The soldiers panic as intense energy consumes the entire battlefield, mistaking Bao's desperate final act as an attempt to kill them all. Bao dramatically reveals his true, hidden identity. As a powerful Chi master hailing from the ninth heavens, the battlefield erupts in utter chaos as Gwen is warned to retreat. While she desperately calls out for Bao, her voice strained, she hesitates, watching as Bao's aura flares violently before her eyes. She bravely confronts him, eyes blazing, demanding to know if his true goal was always to destroy their world. Bao admits they are indeed from different realms, and insists his sacred mission is to save the ninth heavens. He declares that anything beyond that sacred purpose is utterly irrelevant to him. He sends Gwen reeling, disbelief and sorrow etched across her face. Carl rushes to her side as she collapses from the overwhelming shock, cursing Bao's profound betrayal with bitter rage. Determined to stop him, the knights grab the mysterious stone disc, and decide to take it far, far from the chaotic battlefield. In response, Bao unleashes his ultimate, devastating technique, a devastating, brilliant golden strike that shakes the very heavens. Carl pauses mid-battle, thinking long and hard. As he turns toward Bao, he starts to describe a legendary dish, called the legendary Million Dragons Feast, crafted from the absolute best ingredients of every single land. With reverence, he solemnly says, crafting a meal like this demands immense skill and endless patience. It's a dish reserved only for the most honored guests. Carl admits that despite his initial distrust, he's realized Bao is the only one fit to stand beside Gwen. He then glares bitterly, claiming he once thought Bao deserved that honor, but no longer feels the same way. He spots a jagged cliff, a scar left by the earthquake, and plans to use it to his advantage. Bao reacts instantly, striking Carl down before he can even move. Gwen cries out in shock, torn between anger and utter disbelief. The other knights mutter about Bao's apparent madness, yet they notice the artifact's reduced impact after being moved. The soldiers rally together, shouting orders to stop Bao and push him back from the stone disc. A memory of their past praises resurfaces, just as Bao unleashes his true might, scattering them with a single, devastating blow. Gale and Lance emerge from the dust behind him. Lance yells at him, furious that Bao has lost all sense of honor. Gale shouts out, desperately trying to reason with him, and plead for calm amidst the madness. He stops Gale mid-air, hoping for his understanding and accepting who he truly is. He turns, blocking Lance's attack, justifying his choice by claiming it involves a principle Lance deeply respects. Bao shouts for everyone to stand aside, his attack blasting them backward. Then Gwen stands before him, her sword trembling as she blocks his path. Bao steps closer, demanding she move aside, but Gwen staunchly refuses to yield. Bao warns her again. She yells out that she will never do so. Bao says he doesn't wish to fight, urging her to move aside. One last time. Gwen screams in defiance, refusing to step away, and strikes him across the armor. Then a surge of dark energy erupts, splitting the battlefield in two. Bao pauses as Gwen trembles, pleading for him to stop. From behind, another voice calls out, demanding he stop. Bao looks up in shock, recognizing the familiar presence of Urien. The spirit of Urien manifests, and Gwen panics, asking why his essence is now within her. As the king's voice echoes from within her, he explains that during their last encounter, his chi intertwined with hers before fading away. It's also been intertwined with another power, belonging to the Pope, whose chi also connects to her own. Gwen questions Urien about his connection to the Pope, but he expertly avoids the question. He explains that her ki has now fully merged with the Pope's, granting her the ability to wield the remnants of that divine power. Golden light erupts, swallowing the entire battlefield. Urien declares she times, is their final hope against the rampaging knight. Gwen flashes back to her struggles with chi, a painful memory. Bao calms his mind, his hand steady as he draws his formidable blade. He rises, challenging her to step forward and face him head-on. His voice remains unwavering, while Gwen's eyes harden with fierce resolve. Bao calls out, urging Gwen to finally step forward and claim her destiny, to embrace the daunting path she was always destined to walk. The loyal knights cry out, their voices filled with deep concern for their princess. Meanwhile, Gwen quietly lowers her head, lost in thought. She feels the immense weight of the moment pressing down upon her. Then, with newfound resolve, she lifts her head and proudly introduces herself as the 12th inheritor, the true legacy of her kingdom. Empowered by her sacred duty, she lifts her sword high into the air, declaring her unwavering loyalty and fierce readiness to fight. Bao responds in kind, his gaze unwavering, announcing his own formidable title, the 12th sect master of his order. He echoes his name, a challenge thrown back with equal force. Flames and raw power surge violently, erupting all around him. Bao charges forward, a thunderous battle cry, for the 9th heavens, escaping his lips. Urian shouts a warning to Gwen, "Don't rush in so recklessly." As Gwen grits her teeth, a wave of apprehension washing over her. He reminds her that she now wields power on par with the legendary Bao Zone. Their swords clash, meeting in a violent, world-shaking explosion of power. The sheer force of their confrontation sends tremors through the very ground. The soldiers reel back, stunned, as the immense pressure slams into them. Meanwhile, Vivi quietly mutters, admitting to a severe miscalculation. As she watches Gwen step forward, her heart heavy with doubt, Vivi reflects bitterly on the unfolding events, her mind racing. How the Pope had placed all times her unwavering faith in this young knight. Doubt clouds Vivi's thoughts, a chilling suspicion taking hold. She wonders if the Pope truly foresaw this entire unfolding prophecy, though deep down, she utterly refuses to believe it's even possible. Despite her doubts, she grudgingly acknowledges Gwen's immense potential, realizing this young girl carries the undeniable talent of a true chi master. Bao stands unyielding amidst the surging flames, an unbreakable force, completely unfazed by Gwen's relentless, powerful attacks. Gwen stares in utter awe, overwhelmed by the immense power Bao wields so effortlessly. With a sigh, she reflects on her journey, a path filled with trials, realizing, with a pang, that she had merely been following his formidable lead. Yet, unyielding determination still surges through her very heart. She declares her sacred purpose, her voice ringing with conviction, reaffirming her lifelong vow to bravely serve her continent and uphold the noble path of knighthood, no matter the cost. She recalls the ancient, legendary tale of the mighty Excalibur, accepting its deadly cost without hesitation, all in pursuit of her vital mission. But then the crushing truth hits her like a physical blow. As she remembers, it was times Bao asterisk, not her, who ultimately proved worthy. Not times who ultimately drew the sacred, fabled sword. She reflects, with deep regret, on her past, paralyzing hesitation. She grapples with whether her weakness stems from a lack of strength or a failing of her faith. Despite her clear reluctance, she vividly remembers the moment she knelt before Bao, choosing to follow him, solely for the salvation of her world. She confesses that she once regarded Bao as nothing more than a weapon to destroy cursed armors, but her understanding of him began to evolve over time. Now, she acknowledges that fate has truly come full circle, realizing she once surrendered for the sake of her world, but she understands, she must now act independently. Brimming with renewed determination, Gwen raises her sword, prepared to confront Bao directly. Bao parries her strike, and their blades clash, sending sparks flying as their powers ignite. Gwen cries out, a scream of pure agony, as a potent surge of golden energy scorches through her very being. Bao gravely warns that overextending her chi will be fatal. Completely disregarding his warning, she funnels every last shred of her will into her sword, driving forward fearlessly, despite the immense peril. She defiantly declares that she had already surrendered her life, the very instant she embraced the path of knighthood. With a burst, Gwen releases a devastating surge of golden energy, sending Bao flying backward. He's utterly astonished by her sudden mastery, and questions how she could have possibly learned it so fast. He recalls personally training his own disciples in the past. Genuinely impressed by her immense potential, he decides to showcase his own unparalleled mastery, unleashing the scorching power of heavenly fire. Gwen's weapon crumbles to pieces, as she's violently propelled backward by the sheer force of his assault. A loyal ally cries out, offering her his sword, as she desperately tries to regain her footing. Bao's overwhelming power continues to surge around her, making the ground tremble, as Gwen firmly steadies herself. Absolutely determined not to surrender, she spots the shattered blade close by, and chooses to wield it. Lance watches with concern as Gwen stumbles yet again. The other knights watching protest vehemently, accusing Bao of exceeding the limits and demanding he fight someone truly his equal. Meanwhile, Vivi calmly watches the scene unfold from afar, realizing that Bao was merely disarming Gwen, rather than actually attempting to inflict real harm. Gwen collapses to her knees as Bao looms menacingly above her, demanding that she surrender. She grits her teeth, her jaw clenched tight, stubbornly refusing to yield as she summons her chi once more. Bao listens intently, as Gwen reveals her broken sword still retains her chi. He realizes that together, they could forge an incredibly powerful formation. She channels the abundant energy from their surroundings, and defiantly challenges him to submit. Bao cautions her that she's no match for his immense power, but she stands firm, bravely admitting her own weakness. Yet, she boldly declares she's far from alone. She stands united with every soul on her continent. Vivi realizes Gwen is sacrificing her Kai to empower her comrades. The knights feel an incredible surge of energy coursing through them. The soldiers rush forward, moving as one unified force. Their shouts echo with the cry for Bao's utter defeat. They rally fiercely, standing strong behind Gwen. Carl charges in, lunging and roaring Bao's name with unbridled fury. Lance confronts Bao directly, ready for battle. His sword blazes brilliantly with raw, concentrated ki. Gale declares that the man standing before them now is no longer the leader they once so loyally followed, but merely a haunting shadow of his former self. With a powerful cry, his former friends now turn and attack together, branding Bao as their one true enemy. The very ground trembles beneath their feet. The combined force of their strike sends Bao crashing backward. In defeat, Gwen watches as her risky plan succeeds. Her face tightens suddenly, contorted in pain. She winces, overwhelmed by an agonizing new pain. Her body strains immensely from the vast energy she's channeling. Despite her profound exhaustion, she still resolves to transfer her chi one more time, to strengthen her allies. Vivi suddenly appears beside her, intervening immediately. Gwen struggles to call out Vivi's name, fighting for breath, but Vivi only warns her that her body simply cannot handle another surge of chi. Vivi speaks with calm resolve, acknowledging Gwen's brave efforts and their shared desire to protect their world. She explains that raw survival drives them both forward, despite their different sides and conflicting morals. With steely determination, Vivi steps forward, telling Bao to proceed. She will hold off the endless waves of advancing soldiers herself. Bao calmly orders her to release the captives. She questions his decision, clearly perplexed, warning that freeing them will only make things far more difficult. Bao responds with quiet, unwavering assurance, implying he completely trusts her to handle her own course of action. After a moment of conflicted hesitation, Vivi agrees to act according to his unexpected wish. The knights nearby murmur loudly, baffled by the confusion. Uncertain of Bao's motives, they urge each other to stop him. The army charges forward on command, a thunderous tide, raising their weapons high, ready to strike Bao down. Surrounded and utterly overwhelmed, Bao endures blow after brutal blow, without once fighting back. This strange lack of resistance thoroughly confuses his attackers. Furious and insulted by his complete lack of resistance, they demand to know if his silence is meant to mock them. Bao's memories flood back, echoing loyalty and lost camaraderie. Then, he finally confronts Gwen once more. Vivi watches on, her expression solemn, noting Gwen's determination. Even with her energy completely drained, Gwen admits her strength is almost completely gone, but refuses to yield, clinging to one final, desperate hope. She raises her hands toward the heavens, channeling pure, ethereal light, sensing energy from the farthest reaches of the cosmos. Drawing on the power of the universe itself, she unleashes a massive surge of chi, hurtling it towards Bao. The soldiers cheer, realizing Gwen has finally succeeded. They rally further, shouting their victory cry, as they charge toward Bao to destroy the stone disc. Bao quietly acknowledges and praises Gwen's achievement. He then releases a wave of overwhelming power, sending the surrounding soldiers flying. As he thanks her, the shockwave reaches Gwen, who quickly braces herself. A massive burst of energy erupts as the disc ignites once more. Vivi watches as she suddenly realizes that the reincarnation technique has finally activated. A glowing rift forms between realms, creating a bridge where energy from this continent begins to flow toward the ninth heavens. The skies twist into chaos, marking the end of the current world, while a new one dramatically rises from its ashes. Bao wakes up, surrounded by golden light, disoriented and unsure where he even is. Vivi tells him that after activating the reconstruction technique, he has become one with chi, and now resides in its flowing current. He learns that all he must do is wait, as the chi from this realm travels to the ninth heavens. The golden energy in his realm swirls as light returns to the heavens, signaling its recovery. Yet, a shadow of concern crosses his face as he senses something is amiss. He realizes that while the heavens are healing, Gwen's continent itself is falling apart. Vivi reminds him that his true origin lies in the ninth heavens, even if leaving feels incredibly cruel. Bao admits his feelings aren't just guilt, but also deep compassion for both realms. He says, everyone, including Vivi, has faced their burdens alone, sacrificing themselves for others. She warns that such devotion may lead only to a dead end. Moments before, a surge of energy erupts above her. She stares wide-eyed as Bao channels the power, his resolve stronger than ever. The river of qi gleams as it transfers energy upward. Vivi panics as she realizes the qi is being pulled away. Instead of soaring towards the ninth heavens, she closely examines the chaotic flow. She concludes the river of qi might have infinite branches, each leading to different directions and outcomes. The flow of energy begins to distort violently, as she fears the qi from Gwen's continent and the heavens will be drained dry by these unstable branches. She desperately calls out to Bao for help, yet a shadow of concern crosses his face as he senses something is amiss. Bao lowers his head, admitting that since returning to this continent, he no longer possesses a physical form. Bao recalls his first arrival in this new world, driven solely by revenge against the four-eyed demon, yet utterly powerless to act. He admits his alliance with Gwen began with mutual exploitation, like two currents entwining within the river of qi. He reflects that either side could have abandoned or sacrificed the other, with one gaining power as the other faded. He realizes such relationships only deepen conflict, as both sides lose their purpose and hit a dead end. Determined, Bao declares that even a small change in choice could alter everything. Vivi warns him to return before the current consumes him completely. A surge of golden light shoots through the sky, marking a powerful shift that shakes the entire battlefield. On Gwen's continent, soldiers watch in disbelief as Bao's armor begins to stir, defying their earlier victory. The armor drives Excalibur deep into its own chest, shattering the chest plate in the process. Vivi watches the events unfold through her qi. She demands to know why Bao destroyed the body left on the continent, warning that it could disrupt the river of qi and the very balance of their world. With a determined expression, Bao reveals that this was his true intention all along. Vivi yells for him to stop, warning that his madness could lead to Lily's downfall, and threatens to intervene herself. He stays eerily calm, dismissing her warning as if her power or words mean nothing to him. Furious and desperate, Vivi shouts that she doesn't need him anymore, declaring she can finish everything without his help. Her anger reaches its peak as she calls his name, unleashing her energy toward him in a blazing confrontation. She suddenly halts in confusion, as the golden light around them dramatically shifts, and begins to move unpredictably. Bao smiles faintly, sensing the surge of power, and announces that the moment he was waiting for has finally arrived. A torrent of energy erupts around them, overwhelming them both with an immense flood of qi. Vivi reels back in shock, realizing this energy is drawn through countless, glowing branches, connected like veins of pure light. Bao calmly declares that the gathered energy has finally reached its limit. He prompts her to look up, where the skies now blaze with endless golden streams. She realizes this light is qi, drawn from countless worlds. Bao explains that what they once thought was vast is merely a tiny fragment of something far greater. The golden light expands rapidly, as he explains that linking the ninth heavens and Gwen's continent through the river of qi allows energy to flow freely across all worlds. Stunned by the revelation, she realizes he's reaching far beyond their world entirely. She questions if the immense energy he wields now is the same dangerous power that once consumed Lily. Bao smirks confidently, claiming his mastery surpasses all others, and that such control is simply natural for him. He reveals his breakthrough came from observing Gwen's ability to borrow qi from another world, and thanks her for the inspiration. Vivi challenges his logic, pointing out this feels no different from their previous, flawed attempts. He explains that this time, instead of draining only Gwen's continent, he has drawn from many worlds to restore the ninth heavens, even if it means others will suffer loss. He quietly accepts the consequence, saying he knows this burden, just as the continent once bore it. He recalls how, alone, he could never fight the cursed armors, but with allies like Gwen, Gale, and Lance, their combined strength changed everything. He says that with all of his friends, including Vivi, he finally has hope. Countless stars, representing worlds, shimmer across the void, as he explains that by linking to many realms, they can restore both worlds with minimal harm to each. Vivi protests in disbelief, saying that sustaining so many qi links at once is beyond possibility. Bao rises, declaring he must remain as the central anchor, the pathfinder who channels all connections. She warns that allowing so much energy to surge through him will utterly destroy his body, but he smiles and says, such limits apply only to mortals, not to him. With resolve, he commands the ritual to begin, and the grand seal of light beneath him awakens. Golden Kai streams cascade down from the heavens, flooding the city. Confused survivors look around in utter shock, realizing they should have been dead by now, yet life and raw energy now pulse vibrantly through the air. Once again, they gaze up at the sky, daring to wonder if their savior is none other than their sect leader. Meanwhile, over on Gwen's continent, golden streams begin to descend endlessly there as well, and the people stare upward, utterly stunned in disbelief. Gwen instantly senses the profound shift, and realizes the corrupt Chi's destruction has finally ceased. The Pope smiles calmly, finally understanding, and only the true king could have saved their continent. She reflects on an ancient prophecy, foretelling that the true king would come from another world, something she had never truly believed, as outsiders had only ever brought destruction. She questions who this mysterious savior could possibly be. Carl calls out to Gwen, as they both witness the celestial light filling the heavens. She gazes upward in silent awe. She spots Bao's lifeless armor, overflowing with chi. She whispers in shock, calling out to him. As realization truly sets in, she steps forward and softly utters his name once more. Bao explains that his image now appears across countless skies, proof that their worlds are intricately linked through his energy. He declares that all chi will now flow through his body. As Lily emerges from behind him, Vivi cries out Lily's name, utterly shocked. She observes that the energy feels exactly like Lily's chi, and Bao calmly confirms that her very essence, too, will merge with his. When asked if Lily still lives, he explains that her individual state no longer matters, as long as her chi continues to exist. He then proclaims that from this moment on, she will no longer simply vanish, but will travel freely across the entire world, allowing every being to find their true path. Lily's body gently drifts upward, as Vivi desperately calls out for her to wait. Vivi screams out an apology, her face filled with profound guilt and sorrow. Bao gently explains that Lily understands Vivi's emotions, and must move on to her destined path in another world. He tells Vivi that she, too, should go, leaving her startled and utterly confused by his words. The light around her suddenly intensifies, as she's suddenly pulled upward toward the golden vortex. Bao tells her the ninth heavens are now fully restored, offering her a choice: gain a brand new body, or follow Lily to an entirely different world. Vivi initially refuses, asking what will become of him, and wonders if he plans to stay there forever. Tears well up in her eyes, as she protests it was her time's fault everything began, yet he's the one burdened with the heavy responsibility. She tearfully pleads with him, insisting that once the continent and the ninth heaven heal, he should no longer have to sustain the connection between worlds. He admits she's right, but adds that, through his link to the infinite realms, he now sees similar events unfolding across countless worlds. Bao envisions countless people who live, love, and regret within their brief lifetimes, all while struggling with the chi that shapes their existence. He reflects that those who walk their paths alone will eventually reach a dead end, but when they have someone beside them, endless possibilities unfold. With calm conviction, he declares his own path lies here, choosing to remain as one with all worlds, eternally bound to their light and life. Gwen gazes up at the light, enveloping the skies. The brilliance intensifies, as the sky bursts with chi. The chaos fades into silence as the sky clears, leaving the soldiers stunned by the sudden calm and stillness. Gwen and her knights notice the eerie peace, settling over the battlefield. Unsure what it means, she softly remarks on the quiet, sensing faint stirrings of life returning to the earth. One of the knights calls out in confusion, as Gwen rushes forward toward the source of a mysterious sound. She discovers a field of flowers blooming where devastation once lay, astonished by the rebirth unfolding before her eyes. In the middle of the field lies the armor Bao once embodied. The knights follow her, equally bewildered, as they question how life could return to such a ruined place. The Pope appears before them, explaining that everyone can now sense the flow of chi within the revived land. She reveals that the continent had long suffered under the cursed armor's torment, and now its cries have finally ceased. The air shimmers with renewal, as the Pope declares that the earth itself is singing the melody of its rebirth. Gale questions the sudden peace, wondering how the world, moments from ruin, could now be flourishing again. Lance openly wonders if Bao was the one who stopped it. Gwen reaches out for Bao's weapon. A blinding light floods her vision, followed by a cascade of golden memories, revealing the truth behind his final actions. Carl frets over her as she gasps for breath, recovering from the vision, with tears streaming down her face. Gwen suddenly realizes Bao was the one who saved them from destruction. The others stand stunned in disbelief, unable to accept that Bao could have helped them. In the end, the Pope sits gracefully, marveling at how the world turned out so unexpectedly, beautiful and serene. She admits she's never seen such an abundance, ever since the calamity. The knights gather around Bao's lifeless armor, each expressing silent gratitude. Time passes in Camelot, now thriving. Years after the world's reconstruction, in the bustling market, a cloaked figure shops for food, gathering ingredients from a vendor. The merchant explains that a grand celebration, called the Million Dragons Feast, is happening near the castle that day. The merchant offers a kind gesture, adding extra spices for the generous customer. As his companions urge him to hurry, the man reveals himself, and everyone immediately recognizes him as Chief Carl. The vendor quickly apologizes, offering his finest goods, upon realizing Carl's identity, and assuming the food is for the great feast. Carl politely declines the offer, saying the items he already has are infused with rich qi. Carl effortlessly prepares a dish on the spot, and offers it to the amazed vendor, who can't believe how quickly it was made. Carl walks away with his men, saying that the gesture reminded him of someone who would have made him do it anyway. Meanwhile, in Camelot's inner hall, soldiers gather around the yin-yang formation. Lance explains that the hexagram array played a vital role in their victory over the cursed armors. He warns not to underestimate its power, saying it inspired courage in everyone during the last battle. Excitement fills the room as the legendary knights make their grand appearance. The knights convene at the great table, acknowledging the difficulty of gathering everyone from across the realm. A continent reunited after years apart. Lance calls the crucial meeting to order, declaring they've gathered to discuss something monumental. He then announces their plan to establish the continent's United Knight Regiment, and to decide its official, defining name. The knights immediately begin offering their suggestions, debating between the serious and the delightfully humorous, each one a reflection of their unique personalities and ideas. Carl then recalls Gwen wanted the name to honor the ancient hexagram formation, a bow once left behind. A knight wonders aloud why it's called a hexagram, when it simply looks like a perfectly round table. Inspired by that keen remark, Lance stands tall and declares, "The new name shall be the Knights of the Round Table." The others nod in eager agreement, complimenting how incredibly fitting and dignified the title sounds. With swords raised high, united together, they swear their sacred oaths to protect the entire continent, without a trace of fear or hesitation. Later, the knights notice Gwen's unexpected absence, assuming she's at her usual, peaceful spot, communing with the spirit of Bao. She reflects on how drastically the world has changed since his ultimate sacrifice. Gwen sits gracefully among vibrant flowers, smiling softly as she wonders if Bao would even recognize her after all this time. She thinks about how long it's been since she last wore her battle armor. Gwen remarks that the time for war has truly passed, and that laying down the armor feels utterly right. She confides that the others want her to lead the regiment, though she deeply doubts her worthiness for such a crucial role. She admits to feeling weak and incredibly uncertain, unsure how far she can truly go in fulfilling her vow to protect her world. Despite her deep doubts, she smiles faintly and assures herself that it's all right. Gwen stands confidently before Bao's gleaming armor, assuring him that no matter what challenges come her way, she will fiercely keep moving forward. She gazes down at the legendary Excalibur, reminiscing how fate once powerfully brought them together through it, wondering aloud if drawing the sword once more would make him reappear. This peaceful moment is abruptly interrupted, when a shadowy figure suddenly appears at a distance. Gwen turns sharply, while the newcomer hesitates to introduce himself. The young man then steps forward, explaining that he's a sword trainee from the castle, delivering a weapon for his master's upcoming tournament. He nervously adds that all the other swords were already taken, so he came to retrieve the one resting right here instead. She gravely tells him that drawing it could cost him his life. Our trainee proudly shrugs off her worries. He boldly claims such superstitions don't faze him. Gwen's eyes widen, just a touch, before a faint, knowing smile plays on her lips. She casually invites him to try, then asks his name. The young man simply replies, "I'm Arthur."